Welcome into episode 3 of Conversations with Chris and Cameron. Tonight we are talking about Kentucky basketball from Brandon Garrison's leadership jump to Otega Oweh's return and how this team is already building chemistry under Mark Pope. Plus, I sat down with former UK linebacker and current agent Travaughn Paschal for an inside look at today's college athletes. So let's get into it. I'm Chris Feesmore.
I'm Cameron Waddle.
And we're excited to have another show tonight. And we're going to be mainly talking about UK basketball because they had a chance to talk to media earlier this week with Brandon Garrison and Otega Oweh, and there were a lot of talking points we can talk about for sure.
Oh yeah, big time. And look at us, 2 episodes in a week, just
Yeah,
knocking them out.
2 episodes in a week. Of course, if y'all didn't see the earlier podcast episode this week, we were talking about how Vince Marrow went to Louisville. We probably won't talk about that too much tonight since we already did that earlier this week, but L's down. So L's down to Louisville and Vince Marrow. But we'll talk about that probably a little bit, mainly more talking about Kentucky basketball. But so, like I said, Garrison and Oweh talked to the media earlier this week, and we're going to talk about the main bullet points that we got from the interview and everything. And one of the things that stuck out to me was Garrison admitted he wasn't fully prepared for the full Kentucky experience last year, but now knows what to expect. And of course, like many people say it, you're not going to be prepared year one under Kentucky because these fans are crazy. You know, John Calipari called us crazy all the time. Mark Pope, thankfully, hasn't yet.
Yeah. Yeah, Pope's been very complimentary with all of the fan base, with all the
Yeah.
craziness and chaos that the fan base brings. But that is a great point that I mean, Brandon Garrison's mentioned it. Numerous guys last year, they were like, man, it just kind of shocks you. Like you think you know college basketball craziness and the fan base of all these different places, but nothing is like this place. Like so, yeah, it was super cool to see Brandon talk about that and kind of his leadership, like you had mentioned, that he'll be able to kind of guide these guys and kind of take them under his wing as they try to handle this chaos that
Mhm.
Kentucky media will bring, and I mean overall sports media will bring all year. So yeah, that was a super cool point that he brought up and that they asked him about.
You're not wrong. And then of course this past year, I mean the UK fans were crazy. I mean fans were or students were writing Mark Pope to get that free gas money to go to the NCAA tournament.
That's right.
You know, Mark Pope obliged and, gave everybody free gas money to go to the NCAA tournament if they wrote him. And that's crazy, but who knows how much he spent. He never told the media actually how much he spent because he was like, I'm trying to not uh figure out how much I spent because, it's going to like eat me up and everything if
Yeah.
I mean, and then even before that, he bought everybody ice cream if they went to Rupp Arena for a home game last year. That was insane. And I think he spent like $3,000 or $4,000 on ice cream that night as well.
Yeah, I mean he's not the highest paid coach in the sport, but he's doing all right for himself. So I'm sure he was able to do that, but I'm sure there was a whole lot of money that he's like kind of like
Yeah.
I know I know I was offering this, but he might have tried to walk it back a little bit. But yeah, he's done an incredible job with dealing with the fan base. Like you said, the ice cream, free gas money.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's done amazing with it.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And I think he makes like 5 million a year, but still $3,000 or $4,000 still is a lot. Even though
But
you're making 5 million, like
yeah,
it's
it'll still make a dent though.
yeah, you're
That'll
not.
still make a dent.
Yeah, another talking point I noticed for both Garrison and Oweh, they both expect to have a bigger role in year two, even though Oweh already had a big role last year. But, you know, Oweh and Garrison are both going to be like the main two leaders because Garrison will be a junior this upcoming year. Oweh will be a senior. He'll be alongside Denzel Aberdeen as the only other senior on this year's team. So, I would definitely say Garrison and Oweh will probably be the two big leaders this upcoming year just because they were at Kentucky last year. Granted, you also have sophomore Colin Chandler and sophomore Trent Noah, but those were the two key players this past year, Oweh and Garrison, and with them returning, I think it'll be great.
Yeah, I think yeah, like you pointed out, they both got asked a similar question, and like Mark Pope's always said that players tend to form and take another huge step in year two in his like system and in his program. So yeah, I expect a lot from both of them. And when they asked Otega about it, he had an answer of kind of like, yeah, I mean, I'm just really excited for another year in it. And then obviously, some of it was from what NBA scouts have talked about, but like just little things that he's going to be able to change is like the volume of shooting threes
Yes.
and stuff like that. And Brandon Garrison, his was also part of shooting threes where I can't remember who it was that asked, but they were just like, man, you were shooting threes really well at the end of the year. Is that something
Yeah.
that you kind of focused on this summer? And he said Pope had brought that up, and
Mhm.
Pope wants him to shoot more threes next year. So, yeah, just another year in the system. And I think like just what Jackson was able to do last year, what would come out of practices and like what he would be able to like where numerous coaches, not only Pope, would just say like he's literally an extra coach on the court.
Mhm.
That's we're gonna have that in four different guys, like you mentioned, Colin Chandler, Trent Noah, Brandon Garrison, and Otega Oweh. Like
Yeah.
all of those guys are gonna be able to like kind of guide these guys, and I think it'll
Mhm.
make things flow a whole lot faster. And this team's gonna be almost in full swing early on in the year instead of it being not that we weren't full swing, but like you
Yeah.
could really
Took a little
like tell
longer.
that the
Yeah.
guys were getting a grasp later in the year. So it'll be exciting to see just kind of earlier this year because they'll all be so familiar with it so quick.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And speaking of Oweh, I remember somebody asked him, like they were like, so the NBA told you to work on all this and everything, but then they were like, what did the NBA say to you that you're good at? And what stood out for me was that he was already great, defensively. They were like, you're great defensively. You have all the mechanics to be a great defender, grabbing steals, blocks, and everything. But, what he needs to improve on is, of course, his three. Granted, the NBA did say it wasn't about his mechanic because they were like, as long as you can get your three off, that's the main thing. But they want him to improve on taking more threes a game. It wasn't because of his mechanic, but they want more, 3-point attempts from Oweh.
Yeah, like you said, all of the Twitter basketball coaches out there were the ones that were calling out Otega Oweh's shot for him. But yeah, like you said, the NBA and all the people involved, you kind of just told them like if you're getting the shot off, we don't really care what it looks like. Just
Yeah.
as long as you're getting that shot off, and he has been for multiple years now.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, the volume, just the numbers, he needs to have a higher quantity of shots because he's had a
Yeah.
good percentage. So it's just kind of seeing them go up more and go in more. I
Yeah.
think that's kind of what they're looking for, and I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And I'm hoping, he'll take at least 3 or 4 3-point shot attempts per game, maybe even five. I don't want Garrison to shoot more than five threes, I'd
No,
rather
no, no.
have Garrison shoot maybe two or three on a good day, but maybe four at most, but more like two or three. But I would like to see Oweh shoot more like 4 or 5, 6 3-point attempts a game if he can, as long as his 3-point shot is has been improving.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I'm excited to see him just because that is something that everybody kind of noted with him coming back. They're like, he wasn't a bad 3-point shooter at all, but there were times last year where it was like, maybe pass that one up or just try to get downhill instead of taking that shot. But
Mhm.
um, yeah, I mean, even at the combine, he put up great 3-point numbers, and I think that's going to be something that we can kind of see in year two.
You're not
Uh,
wrong. He
see
was good
him,
at the beginning of the year, and then basically like that Clemson game, that's when it started to like go downhill for him, where he wasn't that consistent. I'm like, is it because we're playing against better competition? But it looked like he was getting clean looks still, even after
yeah,
the game.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. Honestly, the biggest takeaway for me, and I'm sure you have this bulleted on there, but the best question was I think it was Jack Pilgrim that actually asked it was about the hair.
The hair,
Uh,
yes, I
because
do
that
remember.
was kind of the one I was like, man, I just want to hear somebody. And I mean, even somebody brought up like Aaron Rodgers later on in the interview, but the
Yeah,
hair was the one I was really interested in, just kind of what was going on. And then I mean, I remember mentioning to you, like, especially while all the scared fans started to pick up and stuff, I was like, hey, I just know there was a video filmed a long time ago. And I know there's a video that's been made. I don't know if there was also a goodbye video, but
yeah,
in that interview, he did say he didn't film a goodbye video, but he had filmed that while he was Dreadhead Otega. And then
yes, you're not
it
wrong.
had been a long time since he had dread. So everybody was kind of like, oh, so you were just holding us back, wanting us to wait forever. And I mean, Pope is one of the guys that was kind of like, dude, yeah, just drag it out. There's no
Yeah,
point in you're not in a rush. Like,
I hear you.
but
Get
yeah,
the
the
most
hair was
NBA
a great
feedback
question.
you can.
What's
But
that?
get the most NBA feedback you can.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, do all you can. Yeah, while you got the opportunity. But I did think it was interesting that he said he kept the dreads.
Yeah,
I don't
for
know if you noticed that. Yeah, he said those were his babies. So I was like, oh, I didn't know. Maybe that's a normal thing. I don't know if people usually keep their dreads whenever they cut them, but yeah, he
Yeah,
had them for 4 years, but he kept them with him. And he said they're not going anywhere. I was like, all right, well,
yeah,
maybe that's something normal, but I don't know.
yeah. I didn't honestly did not hear that in the good old media press conference.
Yeah, he said
I didn't.
something like he was like, yeah, I kept them. They ain't going anywhere. Those are my babies. And I was like,
Yeah, but he did admit that he was growing out the dress for 40 years, so that's insane that that's how
yeah,
his hair was after 40 years. And then speaking of that, Garrison was thrilled when Oweh announced his return, but speaking of his haircut, he was shocked by it.
yeah, yeah. I think yeah, I honestly wish I could have seen like people filming the players' reactions. Like obviously at that point it would have been former players, but like just guys from last year's team that knew him like with the dreads for so long. I wish I could have seen just like some instant reactions of some of those guys, just like whenever they saw the hair. Because I mean, he didn't say what was it that he said. He said it wasn't like a sign of anything. It was just like he just wanted to change up the flow and
A
change
new
up.
era.
Yeah, just a new era. So like it's a super cool reasoning and all that, but yeah, I'm excited for it though. It's gonna be cool because it's like for me, I don't know if you've always looked at it like this, but like year one Oscar, he had the checkerboard uniforms. Year two, he had the new ones. Now it's gonna be year one Otega dreads. Year two
Yeah,
is the clean
haircut.
cut.
Yeah,
So
you're not wrong. And everybody was
yeah,
saying that he's the long lost like twin to and Aaron and Andrew Harrison.
yeah, 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 exactly. And honestly, I did mention that was my favorite question for Otega, but my favorite question for BG, just because it's something that I would ask, is it was early on in the interview where they asked him about like his energy, where he was like, they just kind of asked him like what his thoughts are about his energy because it's a good and a bad thing, and he was like, yeah, it's a blessing and a curse, but he was like, it's obviously a problem when I'm getting my team technicals, but it's a good thing because I'm always like fired up, ready to go, and all
Yeah.
that. So I like that they brought that up and asked him about it because it's just cool to hear
Mhm.
straight from the guy, kind
Yeah,
of kind
you're
of his
not wrong.
perspective on it.
And under Cal, you usually didn't have these summer interviews like this. It's really different. Like you would never hear from the players during the summer at all. So this is definitely a nice change to hear from, Mark Pope earlier this summer, and then now, Garrison and Oweh right now or earlier.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and then a couple of other things I noticed is Garrison, he was mentioning how he wants to be more of a vocal leader this season, and then Oweh, he even mentioned, in the interview earlier this week that he felt like he became more of a leader after Lamont Butler got injured in a different way. So
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. I'm like, wow, Oweh was stepping up whenever, Butler was injured.
Yeah. The honestly my biggest takeaway from either of them is not saying he was immature by any means last year, but I think if you just go back and watch some of the interviews, Otega just seems like a completely different like mature level.
Mhm.
Like I don't even know how to describe it, but like it feels like he's already fully adapted the role of like, hey, I'm the senior veteran leader. Like he just knows what his role is now. And so like it just seems so much more like they were almost coach-like answers, honestly. Like they weren't. There were sometimes last year where you'd be like, "Oh, well," I mean, there was obviously player answers, but um, yeah, not saying he was immature by any means, but that was my biggest takeaway. I was just like, man, like, very very mature answers for like all of these.
You're
But
not wrong, and I do believe Oweh is growing into that leadership role, and he's going to take that next step this year. And no matter if he scores, 5 points, 10 points, 20 points a game, not a game, but a game. You get my point. Whether he scores 5 points, he's going to do other things to be a leader on the court, whether it's setting up his teammates or getting rebounds.
yeah, yeah, they also, I know we're bouncing kind of back and forth between both interviews, but it's just kind of whatever pops in my mind. I
Yeah.
know they did ask Brandon Garrison the question that kind of the college basketball world has been asking since we've got this insane roster. Um, they were like, "Is that too many mouths to feed? How are you going to keep everybody happy with that loaded of a roster?" And he was like, "Man, I think it's just kind of like the starters will go in, get us a lead, whatever, wear some guys down, and then you bring in a whole nother level of troops in there, and they go in and kind of do their thing." So I mean that was kind of my perspective of it, but it was just cool to hear one of the guys say it. No, I mean that was a very proper question to ask because I mean it is what are we 13 guys deep that are or 14 guys like
Technically, yeah.
Yeah,
Could say 15 if you count in Walker Horn, the GOAT.
yeah, legend.
The legend. But yeah, you're not wrong. I'll be interested to see what Garrison does, being more of a leader this year. I know he also said that he wants to mentor Jaden Acquaintance like he was last year with Amari Williams, like Amari Williams mentored uh, Brandon Garrison. So that'll be interesting to see how he does that. Of course, Quaytons is still rehabbing from his ACL surgery, so hopefully he'll be healthy, and everybody is hoping he'll be back for game one of the year, and we'll see about that.
Man, I hope so. And honestly, I mean, we're not really talking a whole lot of camp stuff, but at the camp when he played like 1v1 with that kid, he was moving so well. I was
Inside.
stunned. Yeah, insides too. Yeah, it wasn't even like he was. There was nothing supportive about it. Like he just looked like normal almost. But incredible timing. Like the timing of him getting recovered from this is just blowing my mind.
Yeah, you're not wrong, and it's just because of modern medicine. Like before ACL injuries, you could have been out for a year or 8 to 10 months, but now it's crazy how much, the medical advances have happened with ACLs.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if he can get back early on, it would be absolutely incredible. But I mean, I know you're in the same boat. Like, let's definitely not rush him back to where it would hurt him anymore because he's. I mean, even now he's projected like top five. So,
Mhm.
yeah, making sure he's healthy is definitely priority number one. But I think Brandon Garrison and some of the other bigs can kind of carry the ship for the time being. So, but yeah, getting him back is gonna be huge.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And speaking of the father-sons camp, it was so funny. Otega Oweh asked Mark Pope to reenact him coming back to UK whenever he announced to Mark Pope, and he got all freaked out. So we'll let you all see the video if y'all haven't already, but it was pretty viral over the weekend. But here's the video.
I need you to step into my office. So I got two questions for you. First one is, and I need you to be 100% honest. I need you to reenact your reaction when I called you and told you I was coming back. You have to reenact it though.
All right. You want to be 100% honest?
100% honest.
Okay. So first of all, I was on a plane.
Yeah.
I was on a plane, and I don't understand why or how, but the call actually came through.
It did.
And so Taylor called me, and he said, "Coach, let's do this. I'm coming back."
Yeah.
And I was looking around. I'm like, I think the pilot is about to throw me out the plane right now. So I was like, Otega, I got to call you back later.
He did.
But just hold that thought.
He did.
15 minutes later, called him back. He said he's coming back. Tears. Down my face. Yeah.
That means a lot.
Because I knew a couple things. One, I know how excited you are and how much you want to go play in that league. I know it's a dream of a lifetime, and it was super humbling to see you do two things. One, understand how much you want to get better, how committed you are to keep getting better. And the second thing was to see how much you understand and appreciate what you have right now. That's special stuff, man.
Yes, sir.
So now we're back to work, baby.
I'm better, but hold on.
Hey, and he's been hyped. He was super hyped all the way until he heard about the conditioning test on the first day of summer workouts. Then it was like, whoa, coach, maybe I need to go back to this Jerry West.
Y'all gonna see that one. It's gonna be challenging for sure.
Is this going to BBN?
It is.
God, I love BBN.
It is. Me too, actually. No place I'd rather be. And appreciate you. For real though. Appreciate you, coach.
Now we got work to do. Let's go.
That. Yes, sir.
So he saw the video, and Mark Pope was jokingly saying, I thought I was going to get kicked out of the plane, and everything. And then he was like, I don't know how I answered your original call because I was up in the air, and somehow, I still had service to talk to you, okay?
Yeah. Yeah. The funniest thing was just when he yells, just Otega. He was just stunned. I mean, I don't think he necessarily was worried, but he was like, man, there's the decision. That's what we've been waiting on. And then he kind of, in that video, he kind of locks in and goes serious for a minute and talks about just how excited and what he's expecting this next year for Otega. But that video is incredible. I'm glad they captured that from the camps.
Yeah, you're not wrong, and that was one of the best videos that came out that camp.
Yeah. Honestly, I loved all the videos from camp, but I am a huge, huge, huge. Well, I don't know who my like main guy is going to be this year. Last year, it was kind of Jackson and Kobe. Those were like my two that
Yeah.
I was just always partial to. As of right now, I think it's like Jasper and Cam Williams. Like
Uh-huh.
those are just the two. But so seeing the videos of Jasper finally at UK, like it's been talking about Jasper Johnson since he was in sixth grade, and then it's
Yeah.
finally all
Here.
the way here, and now he's wearing the blue and white, and it's amazing to see. And then Cam Williams, his dad is just the
Yeah,
best.
you gotta love his dad. Like, you feel like if a Caden Lewis was still committed, like came to Kentucky, I feel like, Cam Williams' dad, Greg Williams, and a Caden Lewis's dad, what's his name? So,
Greg, is it Greg?
no, that's Cam Williams' dad,
Oh
Greg.
yeah, yeah. It's
Jarrett. There we go. Jarrett Lewis. So yeah, I feel
Garrett.
like if a Caden's dad, Jarrett, and Greg, they were together, they would be having a ball together right now.
That would be a duo right there.
Yeah, they would be like the best dads ever. But sadly, Caden went to Villanova. I wish him the best of luck, and hopefully Lewis's family is also doing very well as well. Shout out Jared Lewis.
Yeah, shout out to them. Love that family.
Yeah, gotta love him. And I love talking to Caden's dad, but obviously it just didn't happen. And another thing that I wanted to bring up is Oweh believes the team right now is quickly clicking and developing strong chemistry together right now, which is exciting because, they just all got to campus. The only person that's not there on campus right now is Andrea Yelovich. So we'll see when he gets onto campus. Hopefully it's soon, but we'll see about that.
Yeah, yeah. No, this team gelling together already is scary for the rest of college basketball. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
This group's gonna be special.
You're not wrong. And then I saw Jaden Quaitance the other day. I was at the Kentucky Indiana High School All-Star game, and holy moly, Jaden Quaitance was so big. I'm like, gosh, dang.
Did you get to talk to him?
I
Or
just
did,
said what's up to him, like media
oh
is
yeah,
really supposed to be talking to the players, but
yeah.
said what's up to him, shook his hand. I'm like, what's good, Jaden? And he was so muscular and tall. I'm like, God dang. I'm like, I'm only 5'9" and he's like 6'10", so he's like a whole foot taller than me.
Were the hands bigger than Shaq's, you think?
Oh, I don't know. I have small hands though.
'Cause
Like,
that's the word on the street is
yeah,
bigger
if
than Shaq.
if y'all are watching this on YouTube, my hands are very tiny. They're at least a little bit bigger than my mom's, but everybody tells me I have the smallest hands ever.
I think I have like above average size hands. I don't really know. I
Oh, you're
think
lucky. Well, you're the quarterback now.
yeah, yeah. I did. I had good size hands to play quarterback, so I do know that. But
Yeah, but yeah, there were a lot of players from Kentucky at the Kentucky Indiana All-Star game. Like Denzel Aberdeen was there, Reese Potter, Jaden Quaitance, uh, Trent Noah, uh, and I think Jasper Johnson was there too. So like five players that I could think of that were at the game.
yeah, yeah. No, that game would have been awesome. I was actually at Transylvania camp, so I was in Lexington
Mhm.
at that time, but I was not able to get away and get over there. But Malachi balled out, so
Yeah, you're
that
not
was
wrong.
super cool to see.
Sadly, Kentucky lost to Indiana though.
Yeah, yeah.
There
We can lose to them now, just not doing it and during the season though. We ain't losing to Indiana.
Yeah, you're not wrong. There was one player though I did want to get from Indiana that was playing during the game, and you know who it was?
Braylon Mullins.
Yes, I wanted Braylon Mullins so bad, but uh,
Yeah,
I saw the article. He did an interview with KSR with Jack Pilgrim, and he just said that he couldn't see a fit playing alongside Jasper Johnson, which is sad. But I would have loved to have Mullins. He would be a great 3-point shooter. He would be helping
yeah,
UK get to the mark of 35 threes a game. That's what Mark Pope wants this upcoming year, and that's what Garrison and Oweh both mentioned in the interview this past week too.
yeah. 100%. Braylon Mullins would have been nice, and yeah, Indiana high school basketball. There's that's on just my list of just things that I love about this basketball in general. How serious Indiana takes it, and how
Mhm.
good those players are. Obviously, it's not like they just roll Kentucky every year or something, but Indiana high school basketball is amazing. So yeah, Braylon Mullins, there's numerous guys every single year.
Yeah,
Like
you're not
I
wrong.
mean, yeah, basically the Indiana Mr. Basketball, the hit rate on those guys being successful is just crazy.
Yeah, you're
It's
not wrong.
amazing.
And I wish Mullins the best at UConn. Hopefully he does well. I'm glad he didn't go to Indiana at least.
Yep. Yeah. He went away, and I think
Mhm.
man, he's gonna be on a good UConn team this year for sure.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And we'll see, if Dan Hurley leaves to go to the Knicks, we'll see about that as well. I don't think it will happen though.
Yeah, I don't think so. We'll see if John Calipari also.
Goes
We'll
to the
see.
Knicks. Yeah, I feel like he's
Yeah.
too old though.
Yeah, probably so. Yeah, he's probably
Yeah.
probably yeah, probably too late. But you can go. I don't
Maybe
know if
like
you've ever seen the video on YouTube of like the history of Calipari and Pitino's rivalry, where they like followed each other. I
I
don't know if
have
you've ever
not.
seen that video, but it's actually crazy. It as I mean, there's the full path of like uh whatever it was. It was like Rick to the Celtics, Cal to Nets, and like
Yeah.
they go to the same division. And then it was to Louisville, and then to Memphis, same conference, and then it was to Kentucky,
Yeah.
and then they're just rivals. And then now, if he went up there, obviously it's not going in the same division again. But if they went to the same city, it would be the funniest
That
outcome.
that
Like,
would be crazy. Of course,
oh
it would be two different, pros versus college, but that is insane.
yeah, like honestly, Calipari, I don't know if he would have the full power of this, but what if he was just like, no, Rick Pitino's not allowed to bring his Johnnies in here to Madison Square Garden. You stay in Carnesecca Arena. You don't come over here.
Yeah,
Like,
that would be crazy. And
yeah,
yeah, and then speaking of, fun and laughter, because we're having a lot of fun right now. Garrison says this team right now is just full of funny, energetic personalities, and he expects strong off-court connections with this team. And, that's something great to hear from, one of the leaders this year.
yeah. They both mentioned that they're both younger and yeah, a lot of personalities. So that was super cool to see. Just and you could kind of get that vibe from the videos from camp and stuff. So that was really cool to see. And yeah, they're just gonna be a fun group to follow.
hmm You're not wrong. And one of the things that I also noticed from Garrison during the interview is he said he's been using, he's been working on his jump shot and he's been using the NOAA shot meter that was introduced to UK's campus a couple years ago. I believe it was under John Calipari's last year. John
Yeah.
who left UK along with John Calipari leaving Kentucky, but he got that into Kentucky, and I think it's been a great use. I mean, Travis Perry used it for making like 100 free throws in a row. Reed Shepherd, it was big for him. So now with Garrison using it, trying to improve his shooting consistency, I think that could be a big factor as well.
Yeah, I don't know like if anybody like actually knows how much Cal and the staff ended up using it. The rumor was that they just didn't really use it at all, but I bet Pope uses the heck out of that thing.
Yeah,
I bet they have the guys just in there using that machine all the time.
yeah, you're not wrong. And then, like I said last year, I think there was a photo that Perry made 100 free throws in a row or something from it.
Yeah. I mean, Travis is spectacular. It's been weird seeing the pictures of him at Ole Miss this
Yeah,
week. They've
you're
been
not wrong.
posting social media pictures. It's wild.
I can't believe, he's at Ole Miss. And of course, I forgot if it was Garrison or Oweh that brought it up. I think it was Oweh. Yeah, it was Oweh because he mentioned that, he's got to find a home where he's comfortable. And that's how I felt whenever I transferred to Kentucky. Once I got to Kentucky, it felt like home to me. And that's what Perry needs to do. And that's why, he transferred to Ole Miss.
Yeah. Wish nothing but the best for him, but there's one game in the year that I kind of
You're not
hope
wrong.
he doesn't do well, but
Yeah, and then of
we'll
course
see.
UK only plays against Arkansas once this year at Fayetteville, sadly.
Yeah. Yeah, that news came out. I kind of thought they would definitely have us play twice, but they have us playing Florida twice. So that'll be
Yeah.
fun.
I'm excited for Florida. You're not wrong playing, in Gainesville and then one in Lexington, so that'll be exciting. But hopefully after this year with Arkansas, then it'll be a home and away game from now on in the future, like
If
playing.
the SEC wants to make some money, that's the play.
You're
That's
not
the
wrong.
one. That's the way to do it.
And hopefully ESPN Game Day will, be there that week because they weren't this past year because they decided to go to Duke and UNC and everybody was so upset.
Yeah, that's still Seth Greenberg, man. That's still one of the most embarrassing misses of a game day location ever. That was crazy.
You're not wrong. And then we'll be talking a little bit more. We can talk about the return to Kentucky for both of them. I remember Garrison was talking about in the interview that he was talking to Pope and his agent, and Garrison basically said his heart was still at Kentucky and it felt like home. And I was like, that's a positive sign, if Garrison really wanted to return, which it sounded like he did. I mean, I think the only reason why he thought about transferring was, even though he didn't mention about transferring, was due to Jaden Quayton's coming to Kentucky.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was interesting that he kind of shut down any speculation of, like you said, he maybe was going to transfer, but like, yeah, it was kind of just for the most part, it was just, yeah, I'm just coming back to Kentucky. Like he didn't go through all this long process. It was a very early announcement.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And then we talked a little bit about Oweh. He said that he did not film a goodbye video at all. So everybody's like you mentioned earlier, he was like, he's returning, if he made a return
Yeah,
video and not a goodbye video.
yeah, yeah. No, that was goofy. I mean, I like that. I like the idea of why he made it early too. Was the I don't know if it was Jasper or not, but the team videographer, editor, whatever, like that was leaving,
Yeah,
wanted to make that one last video. So he was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's just make it happen. I don't know if it was, I know Jasper left, Jasper Howell, but which he made incredible stuff. If you haven't seen his stuff, y'all
yeah,
go check it out. But
you're not
um,
wrong.
yeah, yeah. And so I thought it was cool that he was like kind of like, yeah, let's do it. One
Mhm.
one one last splash for a guy that he's close with before he heads off. So
Yeah.
that was super cool to see.
And then Oweh also said it was dope, telling Pope he was coming back and mentions that he loves being in Lexington. But the one thing that also stuck out to me was Oweh's agent. I think he has had an agent since his junior year of high school, but his agent made it clear that either for Oweh, he was either going to stay in the NBA draft or return to Kentucky, and transferring was not an option at all.
Yeah, there was a lot of speculation just in college basketball, Twitter and media and stuff in general, where they're like, "Yeah, I heard Alabama offered like 4 million for him or 5 million," and like there were these other SEC schools throwing offers out there. But Otega was like, "Well, if there were, my agent knew to not ever bring them up because there was no other place that I was going
Yeah.
if I was coming back to college." So that was super cool.
Yeah, and then they also, both of them mentioned how this year's team is going to be very young, athletic, and they're going to rebound and defend at a high level, which UK will need because last year's defense and rebounding was awful until after that Ole Miss game, and then everything switched after that game because we lost by like 20 against them.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of defense, the part of the interview where Otega brought up like playing on the same side as Muhammad
Muhammad, yeah.
Diabate. Yeah, so he was like, "Man, I'm excited to not have to play against him anymore." And then, yeah, he's one of the guys that will definitely help with that.
Mhm.
Um, it's gonna be fun though. I mean, like I was talking to a friend about this a couple weeks ago. Like we really blew out teams early on in the year last year. It was like 100-60 or something.
Mhm.
This year, it's gonna be like 90 to like 40. Like we're just gonna hold teams to crazy low numbers
You're
early on in the year, and so I'm excited to see that too.
Yeah. Well, we'll be right back. We'll talk more about Kentucky's defense this upcoming year, along with Mohamed Diabate and others. So we'll be right back. Keep on listening and watching, and we'll be right back. See you so soon. Welcome back into Conversations with Chris and Cameron, and we're going to continue to talk about Kentucky basketball and talk a little bit about Kentucky football. So, we're going to just wrap a few more things up with Kentucky basketball, but Oweh also believes his team will compete constantly in practices to earn roles and minutes because, we're 14 deep right now. I mean, yeah, 15 deep with, Walker Horn, but, 14 deep with either, Reese Potter or Braden Hawthorne.
Yeah, no, it's this is definitely one of those years that like similar to like the 14-15 team. Um, it's just the practices are going to be
And
maybe at times tougher than games. Like it's going to be a special group. And yeah, competing is definitely the right word for what those practices are going to look like. So I can't wait to start getting these practices clips and just seeing these guys all play against each other here in the next few weeks.
you're not wrong. The 14-15 team was obviously still better, probably the best ever college basketball team ever, but this year's team is going to be deep and we'll see what happens with that. And I can't wait for the practice videos as well. I mean, they should be dropping soon. I would say within the next week or two, you'll start to see the first practice and everything. I didn't watch the video, but I saw on YouTube Purdue had their first ever practice and they posted on YouTube. I didn't look at it, but I saw it on my recommended page, but I'm like, I can't wait to see that for UK, in another week or two.
Yeah, super excited for it.
And hopefully we'll have the whole team. Obviously, like I said before, we're still missing Andrea Yelovich, so hopefully he can get to Kentucky, and then hopefully the NCAA then will approve his, waiver so he can be eligible for college basketball as well.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah,
need that.
we can't have a Savannah EV situation again.
Absolute chaos. Hopefully it's nothing like that.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
hopefully not. And then another thing I wanted to point out is Oweh appreciated how the UK staff stayed in contact with him while he was doing the NBA draft process, but while he was trying to pursue his NBA career, but at the same time, the staff also gave him space. So I'm glad, the staff kept checking in on him to see how he was doing and everything. And of course, if he really wanted to go to the NBA, he would have, but the staff supported him all the way.
Yeah, I feel like that's the perfect scenario, and the way he described it is kind of they ended up doing it perfectly where they were kind of still on him and communicating with him, but not too much and not being too pushy with anything. And like he said, they would come into workouts, just kind of see how things were doing or how things were going at times. And so, yeah, I think the staff kind of just handled it perfectly. I hope that's kind of the mindset that they have going forward, even with guys not Otega, even if it's guys that are fully leaning NBA draft that are going to go in the first round potentially. Like I kind of hope that's how they deal with it every year, where they don't seem too pushy, but they're also very very welcoming with open arms, welcoming the guy back.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And you know what I found crazy? I did not know this, but I didn't know Garrison and Case and Wallace played against each other in high school. Garrison said that he played against Case and Wallace his junior year of high school, and whenever he said that, that was so shocking to me. But they're both, I think, from Oklahoma, right? That
Oh, I
was
think Kayson's from Texas, right? And then BG's from Oklahoma City,
maybe. I'm not for
I
sure.
think.
I just remember Garrison said that they played against each other, their junior year because media person asked Garrison, they're like, "How do you feel about the Thunder being in the finals?" And he's like, "They're going to win it this year for sure."
Huh. Yeah. Yeah. I'm pretty sure Kayson's from Texas, but I could be wrong. He could be also from Oklahoma. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not for sure. Like I said, I just remember I heard that during the interview. I'm like, "Huh?" I'm like, "How's that even possible?"
Yeah, that is wild. Small world.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Uh, Garrison Oweh also believes fans will see more goofiness and personality from this year's team compared to last year because probably, last year's team has six seniors, seven if you count Kurt Carissa. So he believes they believe that with the team being younger that, it's going to be more goofiness and, obviously they're going to still handle things seriously on the court and get wins, but, they'll see more of a personality.
Yeah, and I think we're already seeing that with Jasper and Denzel Aberdeen posting that TikTok earlier today.
Oh,
Um,
I didn't
just
see
kind of
it.
seeing, yeah, they posted a dancing TikTok in the locker room, and obviously last year's guys did that, but theirs is kind of, I don't know, it just feels like it's much younger,
You're not wrong.
not at the same maturity level, which isn't bad, but
Am I doing the TikTok dances right? Am I too old for all this?
I think it's spot on. I think it's spot
I
on right there.
think it's spot on. Everybody loves to see my TikTok dances now. I do
Yeah,
have a TikTok, but I rarely ever post on it. I rarely ever get on it. So
I post on mine. I posted that Wandell edit the other day. So if y'all haven't seen that, go check it out.
did it do numbers, views?
Yeah, yeah. The numbers did well on that one. That had I think over 6,000 views, but it was a lot of comments, so that was good. But it was fun to make.
You're not wrong. Another fun thing I noticed, somebody asked him about how they still saw the scar on Oweh's lip, and Oweh joked that, the scar that he got from the Alabama game in the SEC tournament will probably never go away, but he's ready to move forward from it as well.
Yeah, yeah. Battle scars. That's all it is.
Yeah. What's the saying? Like, you know, something about blood. I forgot. Like, leave. I'm forgetting the saying.
Blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah, blood, sweat, and tears gotta
Oh
leave
yeah.
blood, sweat, and tears on the court. And
Yep.
but we didn't want to end this podcast without, talking a little bit about Vince Marrow as well. So we're going to move to football, talk about that for a little bit, and then we'll call the podcast over. we just wanted to talk about Vince Marrow. He officially released a statement today to ESPN about accepting the job. Louisville then confirmed it a little bit later, but his statement he read earlier, he said, "I am incredibly excited to work with Jeff Brom and the University of Louisville football program. Jeff and I have known each other for over 25 years. I have always admired and respected him and the Brom family." And then he goes on to say, "I also love the state of Kentucky. This has become my home. The opportunity to take on this new and exciting role in the state where I have so many incredible relationships was something that I couldn't pass up." And I'm going to say one final part of this quote. I don't want to read the whole thing, but he also said, "I also want to thank the University of Kentucky, Mark Stoops, the administration, and the fans. I have made lifelong friendships during my time at UK, and I have every desire to keep those relationships. That's one of the reasons I wanted to stay in this state. My hope is that I left the Kentucky football program in a better position than when we started. I will always be grateful for my time there."
Yeah, I think obviously it was certainly due that he spoke out. But he certainly left the program better than he found it. But he also when they found this program, it was at an all-time low. So
With Joker.
uh
Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't necessarily the hardest task in the world from incoming coaches, but he certainly did things that I didn't think could really happen with Kentucky football. So we're very, very grateful for that.
Yeah,
But
you're
with
not
him
wrong.
saying he has every desire to keep those friendships, that's just not,
It's not
no.
probably possible.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. You're at Louisville, man. This
Yeah.
isn't. If he went to Michigan or something like that, like that's one thing where yeah, you could probably still stay in touch and work things out. But yeah, I just don't see.
Hmm.
I don't see him liking this, like, because I think those relationships are going to die. Like, I think he'll still talk to probably the Crafts
Yeah,
and
you're not
maybe Matt Jones or something. But like, he's not going to have that like staff, and then he's not going to have like the like popularity level of like walking into the game with a recruit. Like Kentucky fans would lose their mind seeing him.
yeah, you're
He's
not
just
wrong.
not. I just don't see a world where he's gonna like. I don't think this job is what he thinks it is. Like he's gonna have more power or whatever, but like that's yeah, sure. That's I don't know. I
Yeah,
hope he's happy,
you're
but
not wrong. And then another thing is, if you didn't listen to KSR earlier this week, but you know what happened to him at Dunkin' Donuts in Frankfurt?
yeah, I heard about that. Yeah,
That was
yeah, that was
crazy. Like, and I like
yeah,
how the fan didn't mention the first part. He only mentioned the L's down. Like, that was
yeah.
the second part, but he only mentioned the first part until Vince texted Matt and was like, "That's not what happened, you know." And then the fan called back into the show and then explained the first part.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was funny. But yeah, that's what Vince gets, man. That's
Yeah, you're not wrong. The fan was like, "Only did the L's down to himself." That's what he only.
yeah. Yeah. That's the only important part. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only important part. And then Mark Stoops responded back. He wrote a message on social media also saying, "We are thankful for Coach Merrill's contributions to our program over the past 12 years. As we look to the new season and a new era of college football, we are focused on the opportunities at hand. We will continue to build a roster and staff that balances talent, experience, maturity, physicality, and the attitude it takes to win in the nation's most competitive conference. I wish my friend and colleague nothing but the best." So at least he's wishing him nothing but the best, but you know, there's probably going to be a little bit bitterness or rivals between the two now.
Yeah, that feels like the stuff that he's just supposed to say. But
Yeah, PR move.
yeah, big PR move.
Yeah, you're not wrong. So it'll definitely be interesting to see what happens. With, Louisville and UK this upcoming year. Hopefully UK does well. And we'll see though. Like, gotta do better than 4-8, gotta get to at least 6 wins.
Yeah. Yeah, I got to. Or it's John Summerall season, which yeah, that could be the case. I don't know. But
Brad
it'll
White,
be an interesting season.
Brad White, wink, wink, wink.
Could be. I wouldn't be as high on that one, but
You're
I
not.
don't know. Yeah, probably not as high as John Summerall, just because we still are an SEC team, so hiring a guy with no coaching experience before, or no head coaching experience before,
Yeah,
I
you're
don't know. He could end up doing an amazing job. I don't really know, but I'm just big on the John Summerall thing because
yeah.
It just feels so right.
Yeah. And did he see Maggie Davis's tweet from earlier today?
I don't think so.
Oh, so she was at the meeting today, with like the board of trustees and all that, talking about, you know, projects for, for the future with Kroger Field maintenance, suites, elevators, West End Zone Club space, and Wi-Fi. They're trying to bring back Wi-Fi at Kroger Field. They used to have Wi-Fi like a decade ago, and then they got rid of it. I don't know why they did that. I was like,
Yeah.
heck. And then plus UK soccer and softball facilities. So all this would be great and everything. But the one thing that stuck out to me, and everybody has been talking about it since her tweet, uh, she said UK is also requesting an additional $31 million operating loan, also to be repaid with interest as UK Athletics moves into its new operating and governance model and incurs additional new expenses. So, you know what everybody was thinking about after
Yeah,
that
that's a buyout right there.
buyout. Yeah, you're
That's
not
a
wrong.
buyout.
Yeah.
Huh.
So
Interesting price range right there.
yeah, you're not wrong. And who knows? I think Stoops' buyout goes down to 31 million after this year. So be like,
That's interesting.
bye bye, Stoops. So I just thought that was interesting. And of course, everybody's been tweeting at Maggie saying that's the number to, buy out Mark Stoops.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy though. I did not see that. That's
Yeah,
wild.
that was earlier tonight, so we'll be interested to see what happens with Stoops. But I wish him the best, and hopefully he can get to 6 or 7 wins. But before we end the podcast, we just wanted to quickly talk about the new commitments for Kentucky football. They have received 2 commitments this past week since Vince Marrow has left, so they're up to, I believe, 4 now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, it should be four now. I think maybe Vince was holding back motivated Mark Stoops a little bit.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Motivated Mark Stoops for sure. So we'll get into that quickly right now. UK got the commitment of cornerback 3-star Jordan Crutchfield from Florida. So that was a big hit. So, the coaching staff has to be happy, especially like Brad White and everything. He's 6'3", 200 pound, from Vero Beach High School in Florida. He's ranked as the 40th best safety and 463rd overall recruit in the class of 2026 by 24/7 Sports. And he's close to being a 4-star. He chose schools over Auburn, Mississippi State, Florida, Penn State, Miami, and other schools. So that would be great.
That one, he's the one that hey, he's supposed to visit Louisville next weekend, I'm pretty sure. Louisville's
Yes,
trying to get him on a visit.
yeah, he was
Yeah.
supposed to visit Louisville next week, and then also Louisville lost the commitment as soon as Vince Merrill also came up.
Yeah.
So that was funny. And then the other player UK guy as a commitment was 3-star wide receiver Princeton Jean. So that was another big hit. 6 foot, 170 pound pass catcher, out of Valdosta High School in Georgia. He chose Kentucky over offers from Mississippi State, Kansas State, Virginia, and in-state powerhouse Georgia. So, like I said, Kentucky is up to 4 recruits now, 4 commitments with Crutchfield, and then in-state recruit Jarvis Strickland. He'll be nice on the offensive line, hopefully, as long as he stays committed. Then you have, of course, the other wide receiver in Davis McCray, who also committed, and finally, Prince and Jean as the wide receiver as well.
Yeah, good little class. It's just so funny that there's been two since Vince left. It's hilarious.
You're not wrong. I guess he is little dog now.
Yeah, a little dog. He's a little pup.
You're not wrong. But all right, you all, we're going to finish up this
Hey,
pod.
one last thing.
Oh,
Kentucky, North Carolina.
Kentucky, North Carolina. Oh yeah,
We got the Kentucky opponent. I thought it was going to be NC State, but they
yeah.
announced. Well, that was this morning, wasn't it? Or that was yesterday.
It was yesterday that came out.
Yeah, yesterday the SEC ACC Challenge comes out, and Kentucky draws North Carolina at home. That's going to be amazing. I'm super excited for it.
You're not wrong. And like you said at home, I think the last time UK played against UNC at home was the 2014-2015 season. We blew them out.
Yeah, beat them by like 32. It was like 72-40, or it was something like that. We beat them pretty good. I know that.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
But yeah, I think
That
this is like the 44th time we're playing them or something. Something crazy. Like
yeah,
we played them so much, but it's amazing. It's just blue blood on blue blood. And then other than that, I mean, the Louisville at Arkansas is the funniest matchup like in that whole thing. Like that's hilarious. Like they knew what they were doing. And
Yeah.
then Florida at Duke's going to be fun. NC State at Auburn. Other than that, the rest are kind of
Yeah.
whatever. But
Like
some
you
good
said,
matchups.
Arkansas and Louisville, though.
That's hilarious. That's going to be so. Who are you rooting for in that game?
I don't know. Of course, I've seen the memes on Twitter. I won't say that because, it's not safe for work. I won't mention it because, I work in news, and in case if I want to do a job elsewhere, I won't say the memes I've been seeing, but they're pretty funny. But I would say you have to go with Louisville. I would say, like,
You think so?
I feel like you got to root against John Calipari.
Mm.
I don't know.
I'm Woo Pig Sooie in that one. I'm going for Arkansas on that.
Maybe my mind will change before the game, but right now, if you ask me, I would go with good old Louisville right now. But my mind could change
Yeah,
before then.
I think for me, like I've grown up in like the Louisville area, and I just have a like there's another level of just hatred for Louisville. So there's
Uh,
no scenario where I'd ever root for Louisville. There's no way.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
But all right, we'll wrap this podcast up because it's going to be a long one, counting the interview that I did with Travaughn Paschal. Sadly, you weren't a part of that. I wish you were, though.
No. Yeah, I'm super excited to watch it though.
Yeah,
I'm excited for that.
you're not wrong. All right. Well, we're going to end the podcast here. You all can check out the interview I did with Travaughn Paschal coming up. It will play right after this. So let's get into the interview. But we appreciate you all watching. And this is Chris Beesmore
And Cameron Waddle.
signing out for the night.
See ya.
See you. Hello, everyone. Welcome back into episode 3 of Conversations with Chris and Cameron. Sadly, I don't have Cameron on with my podcast at this point. He will be on our podcast earlier in the day, but we have a special guest with us and joining right now from linebacker at the University of Kentucky to leading one of the most innovative sports agencies in the game today. Today's guest is guiding athletes through the world of NIL, the NFL, and life after football. We'll talk Vince Marrow's move from Kentucky to Louisville and the shifting college landscape with NIL and the newly approved house settlement. Please welcome Travaughn Paschal with me. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me, Chris.
Oh,
How's
you're welcome.
how's the weather in Lexington right now?
Oh, it's been actually great. I would be out at good old Thursday Night Live right now, but sadly I had to work late this evening at my work, so I didn't get to go out to it tonight. But usually I go, and it's usually nice weather. The past couple weeks, last week it was packed. I don't know if you ever went to Thursday Night Live while you
Oh
were in
yeah.
Lexington.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Thursday Night Live was my spot, especially, after I got done and I was coaching. It's you kind of got to get away on Thursdays for a little bit at
Yeah,
night. So
you're not wrong. Usually, what I do on my Thursdays is it depends whenever I get off of work. I've been getting off usually at 1 p.m., but I come home, relax for a little bit, do chores around my place, and then eventually go to Thursday Night Live. And then afterwards, I go to my new favorite place, Lex Live, where they have everything there, movies, the bar and everything. So it's a lot of fun.
okay.
That's like my go-to dinner place. So after Thursday,
Yeah. I haven't checked out Lex Live yet. That's kind of was new. I'm
yeah,
always I'm always at Ruby's.
Jeff Ruby.
I'm always at Ruby's every time I come in town.
Mhm.
And then I'm at Bourbon on Rye afterwards. And Bourbon on Rye was just opening when I moved away. It was just opening.
You're not wrong. That's a
Yeah.
good place as well. I haven't really gone to Jeff Ruby's recently, but it's a great place. I usually like to
Yeah.
Drake's, or if I'm feeling a little fancy, I'll go to Malone's or something.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I love Drake's too. Chicken
Yeah,
tenders, phenomenal.
not wrong. So,
Yeah.
are you now not in Lexington? I know probably since you've graduated from UK after playing football. What are you up to currently?
So after I got done playing, I went back and I coached. Um, I went back and I coached. I started a company after I coached, doing financial consulting for NFL athletes, and then that turned into an agency really quick
Mhm.
because I just found myself getting guys endorsement deals that would cover certain expenses because I'm looking at the expense sheet in front of me.
Mhm.
So I'm just kind of mitigating some costs. Like, hey, you want to eat healthy. It's costing a lot of money. Like, let me get you this deal with this meal prep company. So that way you post your story twice a week and they'll cover all of that.
Mhm.
Then it turned into some monetary deals, like where the guys will get product and money. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not eating off of any of this. Like I'm doing this out of the, goodness of my heart. Let me flip that into an agency. So we did that. And I mean, it's been perfect ever since. And
Mhm.
the landscape started to change so much in the beginning,
Mhm.
which is
And how many clients do you currently represent?
I have about 7 clients right now.
7 clients?
Yep.
Yeah.
7. We like to keep it small.
Mhm.
We do have a waiting list for NIL, which is crazy. We have
Mhm.
probably a waiting list of like 30 guys that want to sign. But
Dang, that's
yeah.
insane. It's Josh Pascal one of them by chance?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Josh is one of my clients for sure.
Nice, nice.
He's one of my clients.
hmm Well, I'm glad you have a good, successful business going for you. 7 people you're representing, and 30 people potentially from college. Any big names from college, by the way?
I can't talk about my
Okay.
client list
Uh-huh.
right now in college football, but yeah, we do have some 4 or 5 star guys.
hmm
We have some guys at Kentucky right now. We have some guys Clemson, down there with Belichick at UNC. So yeah,
Yeah,
we have a few. Yeah,
that'll be interesting to see Bill Belichick, first year with college football at UNC. So we'll see what
yeah.
happens with that.
Now we got to talk about the landscape now because the landscape has changed. It used to be, hey, you got to be a great coach. I got to know I'm going to get developed,
hmm
and then from there I have a good shot at getting into the league, right? And then of course secondary is your education. You got to look at that too. Now with Belichick, you're going to get good coaching. He's going to teach you how to play your position. You're going to learn a game. You're going to get developed, even though kids are way more developed coming out than they were 10 years ago. With
Yeah,
all it, all of the guys like me, we go back and we teach the kids everything we learned in college,
hmm
right? In high school. So like you got years and years and years of that. These kids are coming in, with perfect form and, just little minor things they need to work on. And they're coming in like with size too, right? So that's been changing. But I think everything that Belichick's putting together down there is going to come to a head. And you're going to really see that it's about the team that you can pay for.
You're
That's
not.
what college football is right now.
Yeah.
I saw something came out said you need about $20 million to build a national championship competing team,
hmm
right? And I think arguably with this new settlement that happened, we're looking at teams starting out at around 13 to 15 million. So
hmm
they just need to raise that other 5, 6, whatever it is.
Yeah, I know Kentucky athletics, UK athletics. I think they mentioned how they want an additional 20 to 30 million for the other sports. So already the 20 million that they got from the House settlement plus another 20 to 30 million for all their sports programs, which is insane to think about, like 40 to 50 million a year.
Yeah, you need it. You need it. And the funny thing is the NCAA right now, they're running around amateurism,
hmm
right?
You're not wrong.
It's not they're not amateurs, they're pros. Like let's stop, right? We played this game for so long. Just get with the times, right? Gear up. Don't let it just switch on you and you don't have a plan for it and just open the floodgates like NIL,
Did
in the
5 years
past.
ago.
Yeah. Don't open the floodgates. Have a plan and know that it's going to change because
hmm
these guys are not amateurs, right? Because
Yeah.
all it's going to take is, in my opinion, I think all it's going to take is 4 or 5 big schools to be like, you know what, we're going to do our own thing this year,
Yeah.
you know,
You're not wrong.
and that,
I think
yep,
the SEC commissioner mentioned that the other day, how like SEC teams have gone to the commissioner saying like, what's stopping us from making our own league or conference?
exactly, exactly, and then it's going to force their hand again.
Mhm.
So if I have a message for the NCAA, it's stop getting caught off guard and be prepared. Like
Yeah,
you know where it's headed. Do the right thing. You know where it's headed.
yeah,
Doesn't take.
give
Yeah.
the
Does
time.
yeah. It doesn't. You don't have to go to a judge, and a judge has to make you do something that you know is right in the first place.
Mhm.
Have a plan for it.
I hear you, and
So
like I said, the NCAA should have probably gotten on top of this like 10 or 15 years ago, like back in 2010, once media got a little bit bigger, once you brought in, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, like 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, that's when they should have probably gotten on top of all this.
yeah. They just didn't know it was going to be as big. Like I said, just don't get caught off guard again. It happened once. Like everybody gets caught off guard once, but
Mhm.
don't let it happen again. Put a plan in place.
Yeah,
Because the next thing is these players are going to start to unionize.
Hmm.
You don't want that,
Yeah.
you know?
I would not be surprised in the future if there isn't a collective bargaining agreement, though, that happens.
Yeah, it should. I mean, I think it should. I think the way it's set up right now, they don't want it and they don't need it. I think it should happen. I mean, there's been talks of making players employees of the university as well,
Hmm.
right? So, I think it is definitely something that can happen and that should happen.
Yeah, you're not wrong. My girlfriend's dad, he works at the university. He's a professor at University of Cincinnati, but he's against, the athletes being paid as a university employer or anything.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I mean, if you look at it though, you look at a professor and you look at how many heads he teaches and what he gets paid per head that he teaches.
Hmm.
And then you look at the ROI for the school with him being a professor, right? He earns his salary,
Hmm.
right? Same thing when these guys go and fill out a stadium and they can't study what they need to in college because something might be too taxing on football.
Hmm.
Or it might not even be, they might hit to a certain point, especially with these COVID years people are getting, where the school doesn't offer the next step for them, but you
Hmm.
want them to stay.
Yeah.
These guys are making sacrifices on a day-to-day basis, right? So if you're paying them, the same way that he's being evaluated and he's being paid, they should be employees of the university, you
Yeah.
know?
I hear you. That's definitely for a different topic, but I
Yeah.
I know we were talking about a little bit of NIL, but of course I want to talk a little bit about Vince Marrow. It's official. It came out, Thursday morning that he finalized the contract. UFL released a statement today along with Mark Stoops. So it's finally official. And what was your initial reaction to Vince Marrow leaving Kentucky for Louisville?
Um, I think my initial reaction for sure was it wasn't he left for Louisville. It was like I looked at the opportunity that he got
Hmm.
at Louisville, right? And it's a GM opportunity. Like he got to be the GM somewhere and be able to, as good of as a recruiter he was and as good of a mentor he was to the players, the opportunities that he provided to people, not just recruits, but just, players in general, young men going into the world. Because that was one of my mentors as well. Like
Hmm.
I was happy for him to get a GM position, right?
You're not
Now,
wrong.
being in Kentucky, the whole Louisville versus, you know, Lexington thing,
Hmm.
and I really think it's Louisville, Lexington, and I think UK is just a bonus in the whole thing. But like, that one was okay. Well, at least you got your opportunity. At least you got your opportunity. But I mean, I love it for him. Like it, we talk about one big thing that we shared was goals, right? And I was in a spot where, I'm the first generation to graduate from college in my family, right?
That's exciting.
And yeah, so, I'm talking to Coach Merrill. I'm like, so how did you know what you wanted to do?
Hmm.
Especially like after ball, because you see so many guys now that don't know what they want to do after ball, whether it's college or NFL. They
Hmm.
just don't know, right?
Yeah.
And then I think like one of the most, I would say the hardest decision for them is like having money, right? And then not knowing what they want to do, just finding a purpose every day. So, I'm going through something and I talked to him about it. And he's like, and I'm on a staff at this time. He was like, to be honest with you, I think you could be an agent. And I'm fighting it, right? I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. But I asked him what his was. He says, I would have loved to be an NFL GM.
Hmm.
And I was like, Coach, I mean, it ain't too late. Like, da 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 da. It's
Yeah.
not too late. You fast forward and you see the college dynamic shift to
Mhm.
where people are becoming GMs and they have GM responsibility. They're managing a salary cap. Like same calls that I have with GMs and the pros are the calls that I'm having with college GMs now,
Hmm.
right? And to see him get that position, I'm like, oh, he's living out his dream.
Yeah.
He's living out his dream. And I do think, I mean, he's had a lot of loyalty to the University of Kentucky. You think of all of the job offers he's had
You're
since
not
he's been there, you
Michigan.
know? Yeah. It's been a lot more,
Yeah,
a
no,
lot
I'm just
more.
saying like that was like the one
Yeah.
where he almost left to go to like I don't know how long ago, 5, 7 years ago. It's been a little bit, but that was like
Yeah.
a big job. Everybody was like, he's going to Michigan with Harbaugh, at that time.
Yep. Yep. So he had to Michigan. And then, I mean, there's been a couple other ones. I don't know if he wants me to name them. out here. But I mean, he's a highly sought after guy because he gets results, right? So I mean, I like the fact that he bet on himself and he got his dream job, right? It might not be in the NFL, but I mean, it might as well be with the way college dynamics are right now. It's the same responsibilities. You get to, basically control the organization. So I think it's a step up for him. And in all honesty, I think it's a step up for him.
Yeah.
Now, does it leave a big hole for us? I think it leaves a big hole for us. Yep, I think it leaves a big hole for us. But I'm proud of him for the decision that he made and everything he's doing.
You're not wrong. And I'm about to look at Matt Jones's tweet from earlier because he said that there's a name that's been that might take over for Vince Marrow. He named Derek Shea. He's the current offensive analyst on the staff for UK. I don't know if you know anything about him, but
no, I don't know too much about him.
He's apparently the favorite for the tight ends coaching job right now. I know a lot of people, like former players, they want CJ Conrad to take over.
Yeah, CJ would be a good fit for sure.
You're not wrong.
And I
think he's at EKU right now.
Yeah, he's at EKU. I think he would be a good fit too. But I think it's going to be with Vince's position. Yeah, he was a tight ends coach, but he did a lot. I mean, he was that deep voice on the field that made sure you didn't mess up and kept you in line. And also in the meeting room, right? And then also if something happened off the field, like he's the guy that's going to get your guys in line. Along with Coach Stoops as well. But I do think it's bigger than just losing a tight ends coach.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And speaking of that, how important do you think Merrill was to the Kentucky football culture, both on and off the field as well?
I think he was important. I mean, no doubt about it. He was important. Like if I had a guy that was serious about coming to Kentucky, right? Or Kentucky offered him, that's the first person that they would ask me if I knew. Oh, do you know Coach Marrow? Yeah. Let me see if I can put you in contact with him. Let me see if he can reach out, So he's like, people know him all across the country from, Kentucky comes up, Coach Stoops and Vince Marrow come up.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
And correct me if I'm wrong, though, he's the longest tenured coach alongside Stoops, right?
Yes, you're right. He was there for 12 years. It would have been his 12th year, I believe, at UK. I think Mark Stoops was there a year before Vince Marrow got there. So Stoops is going into his 13th year, and Marrow would have been going into his 12th year at UK.
Okay.
So, Marrow has been Stoops' right-hand man, basically his whole tenure, and it's crazy to see him finally go and leave.
Yeah, really good friends and everything. That's why I know it's kind of tough for him to make a decision, It's tough for him to make that decision. And, his kids are there and, they've all since graduated, I believe, but it was definitely a tough decision. They were like brothers. They grew up in Youngstown together.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were like brothers. So, but just because he left doesn't mean he can't always come back.
Yeah,
so that's something to think about too. Yeah. And that's kind of one thing I feel like our fan base isn't the most supportive.
You're not wrong.
It's not the most supportive. Like
people were calling him like little dog or little brother or we're no longer going to get three-star offensive line from Youngstown State. So I saw the memes and everything, and
it's crazy.
Like you said, the fan base isn't that supportive sometimes.
Yeah, and if we really want to compete, we really want to get out there, we need a huge fan base, right? And just kind of some stuff that I've been working on is working with fan bases at different schools, not even my alma mater, on helping them raise money for NIL and helping them do like some things that are maybe a little bit unconventional, but partnering them with companies that help them, raise that. Because I mean, I don't want to see the sport of football get, shrunk all the way down, right? To the point where it's like, is the schools who have money and have a supportive fan base versus the schools that don't, that just like to show up to the games. You know what I mean? So I could see a little bit more happening, with our fans being a little bit more supportive, being a little less condescending. Because like, what if he wants to come back? What if he's like, look, I hate it up here, I want to come back?
Yeah, you're not.
Like 5 years ago, everybody's screaming Yahtzee, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I miss the good old Yassies, but hey, UK, they've landed two recruits since, Vince Marrow has left, so at least, Kentucky football is finally hitting the recruitment trail hard for the class of 2026.
Yes, and they're gonna steady recruit, right? They're steadily gonna recruit. They're steadily gonna bring in good talent, and they're steadily gonna develop guys down here.
Yeah,
Just that Louisville UK game is gonna be a little bit more sour this year for sure.
you're not wrong, and especially being in Louisville. I went to the Louisville game, not at Kroger Field this past year where, UK got killed. And I wasn't there. That would have been awful. But I went there the previous year at Louisville, and that game was so crazy. I'm glad UK won and everything. But Devin Leary, Ray Davis, they both went off for UK, and we won at the end. It was crazy.
Yep, yep. And I typically go to that game every year.
Mhm.
Every year I typically go to that game, and it's always right after Thanksgiving. So I think it might have been last year. I was spent Thanksgiving with the family and Josh in Detroit.
Mhm.
Drove to Ohio, left Ohio, and then went down to Lexington
Uh-huh.
just to watch the game.
This past
So
year, 24.
this past year,
Oh,
yep,
yeah. I remember
yep.
I was up at my girlfriend's parents' house that weekend, and basically I didn't watch the whole game. We got down big, and then we went shopping, like Christmas shopping at that time with her best friend. So I'm like, I'm glad I didn't get to watch the whole game that day. Even though I am
It
a
was rough.
fan and everything, I try to watch all games, whether it be on television or at the game. But yeah, just that game was so rough. It was hard to watch.
It was rough, and I feel like that was kind of we were seeing. I mean, that wasn't the only rough game that weekend.
Yeah.
Like towards the end of the season, like we've been complaining about guys sitting out of bowl games,
Hmm.
right? And players just not playing to their potential. It happens a lot at every single level. Like, because if you look, if a guy's on his contract year and he gets traded and he has to finish out a season with the team, he's looking not to get hurt. He's not necessarily looking to, make his mark. He's trying to get paid, right? Like that's not guaranteed for him. Like
Yeah.
he's trying to get paid. And I think it's the same thing with these guys in the portal. They're like, okay, well, every pick is not a Yahtzee, right? Like it might be some guys that you thought were good and were good for culture, they're not.
Hmm.
But now they're playing. I think it might be some dynamic where these kids are thinking about, oh, the portal's coming up, so I'm out of here after this game,
Yeah.
you know. And I think that's what you were seeing all around the country. It's like guys, it's like, all right, I'm gonna stay healthy for this portal. Like,
Yeah. To get healthy,
not that,
get a paid.
and it's yeah, and it's so weird because when I played, it was like that was your last time on the field, possibly every single game. Like you never knew, and it would just go hard, and there was no money involved. Like
Yeah.
you know,
You're not wrong. And like I said, just, some players I was surprised that they played in the bowl game at UK, for instance, trying to think of I'm blanking on his name, Josh Allen, I was surprised that he played in the bowl game when he could have opted out. Like every player, not at UK, but, other universities or schools, they were opting out of the bowl game. And everybody was like, what's the point, of having a bowl game if the star players aren't playing?
Josh Allen's built different.
Yeah, you're not.
He's built different. If he was hurt, he would have played that game. Like he just had that type of grit.
Mhm.
And to be honest with you, you had Josh Allen and of course my brother.
Yeah.
They were very close.
Hmm.
And then Coach Slarman as well.
Johnson.
Rest in peace,
Right.
battling cancer. And Josh would look at him and be like, "Oh, I gotta go. If he's going, I gotta go."
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Whether he had treatment that day or not, it was just a great example and like of true hard work and grit. And I think looking at that team last year, it was non-existent.
Yeah.
It was like you didn't see somebody just kind of fighting to the end and
Mhm.
taking that leadership last year. But I think they're picking up on it now from some of the talks I've been hearing. I
Yeah.
think they're picking up on that.
Hopefully, I'm praying because we need a better year than last year, 4-8. Woof.
Yes, I think we're gonna get it. I think we're gonna get it for sure.
Yeah, and then speaking of Schlarman, I remember like the last memory was like whenever UK beat Tennessee back in, I believe, 2021 at Tennessee, and I just remember Schlarman. He didn't look healthy, but he was there supporting the team and everything, and RIP like you said to him.
Yeah, yeah, great man, great man. And he would have been, I'm pretty sure he would have been the longest tenured coach right there with
You're
Marrow.
you're probably not wrong, and our offensive line probably would have stayed, great because after he passed, our offensive coaches or offensive line coaches have been the best, and the players haven't been the best, sadly.
Yeah, yeah,
And speaking a
for
little bit
sure.
about recruitment, I know you were a former UK player and coach. What do you think this means for Kentucky recruiting with Merrill, gone? We talked a little bit about that earlier.
I think they've been doing a good job filling in the gaps. I think they've been doing a good job, but I do think it should be a little bit more effort, right? Like somebody somewhere has to know that it's slack that needs to be picked up,
Hmm.
right? They
Yeah.
can't just act like, oh, yeah, everything's fine. He's gone. We didn't need him. Not saying that that's what they're acting like now, but like they need to really hunker down and be like, okay, well, I'm going after the top guys in my group, right? And I'm going to get them. I don't take no for an answer.
Hmm.
Like we need that mentality, you know. But I also think it's going to come in from our fans and our collective or LOC that we're doing right now. It's going to come from support.
Hmm.
If you don't support our football team, they will not be great. And I can tell you that right now.
Oh,
You've seen the way the dynamic has changed. It's not like the old days. You know what I mean? I came up under Joker Phillips and Stoops.
oh.
It's not those days where we can set out a Vanderbilt game and be like, you know what, that I'm boycotting. Like, no, we need you to stand behind our players. Our players need to hear you, right?
Mhm.
I would say my favorite game that I played in while I was at UK was probably LSU my senior year.
Mhm.
And the fans really helped LSU control that game. Like to the point where you couldn't hear in the stadium. We need those days
Yeah,
and at Kroger Field that will forever be Commonwealth Stadium to me. We need those.
you're
You
not.
know, we need people to not be able to hear. We need guys jumping off sides. We need all of that.
You're not
You
wrong.
know,
I mean, speaking of special moments, that 2021 season wasn't that far away, it was 4 years ago, and, back-to-back games at Kroger Field, where UK upset Florida at home, the fans storming, the stadium afterwards, and then beating LSU the following week. Like, I wasn't there at both games, but I was thinking about going to the Florida game, but I was afraid if I go, I might be bad luck, they might lose or something, so. I stayed in Bowling Green because I was still at Bowling Green at the time working there, and I just watched the game at the bar with one of my friends, and that was just an exciting moment. I'm like, it was only 4 years ago. I mean, like, what happened in those 4 years?
a lot can happen year to year, and it's a lot of turnover right now too. So you look at college ball and its transfer portal, like it's a revolving door. Like you're getting one guy the next year, and then losing three, and then replacing those three, and then you lose two. It's a revolving door. It's not like once a guy signed, he has to stay at the school anymore,
You're
or
not
he's risking some of his eligibility. So
you're not wrong. And speaking a little bit more about NIL, do you think, players should be signed under contracts? So like, make them sign a 2-year contract. If they leave early, they would have to pay a buyout to go elsewhere. What do you think about that necessarily?
um, I think all contracts should be 1 year.
All contracts should be 1 year.
You play you. I mean, it's a year to year contract, right? You get reevaluated. You get reevaluated every year, and then you'll be able to choose the two. So I think the reason why those big contracts exist, those 2 year contracts exist to keep you there,
Hmm.
or to think, or the psychology that, oh, if you're signing a 2 year deal, we know you're going to be here for at least 2 years,
Hmm.
right? I don't think that is in the best interest on both sides. I think you do a 1 year contract and you're reevaluated after that year because you could be getting paid more the next year. You could be getting paid less if you lost a starting spot.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it should be something that you can evaluate every single year with a meeting, a one-on-one meeting,
Hmm.
and be able to look at everything and negotiate. But I do not. I'm very against too. I'm very against um, players negotiating their own deals with the school.
Yeah.
Um,
So
and the
you,
reason why I say that, the same with NFL, is like, let's say, like some of these negotiations on the phone get pretty brutal, right? You want to get what you want. Somebody's not giving you what you want, whether or not it's they don't have it or they don't think you deserve it. Well, at that point, as an agent, you have to step in and show why your player deserves that, right? And then pull cases, right? Now, if you're a player, the cases that you're going to pull are one, hearsay. Two, if it goes like very, very aggressive with the conversation, and it's not like unprofessional, but if you get down into a real negotiation, you don't want to be the one that has to walk into the building and go practice with these guys the next day.
Yeah.
Right. You want it to be like business as usual. So that's why, like, these guys going to negotiate, they do a 1-year deal. That's what I would do. Teams put out 2. But to me, the second year doesn't mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If I sign you on a 2-year deal right now as a freshman and you have no chance of starting, somebody goes down that year, you're starting, you're a freshman all SEC, freshman all ACC, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have to pay you more than next year.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Right? I'm going to have to pay you more than next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So let's keep it to 1-year deals.
Mm-hmm.
That's just what I think about it.
Yeah, I hear you. The only reason why I bring it up is because Chad Baker-Mansara, transferred from Auburn, and then I think he's now at USC, and apparently he had a big buyout. And then, of course, the Arkansas quarterback who's related to Nico Amaliva, he transferred to UCLA, and basically Arkansas paid, I'm blanking on Nico's younger brother's name, but they paid his younger brother, and they're trying to get the money back that he paid, that the school paid him because he didn't play a snap at Arkansas, and he's now back home at UCLA.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's tough. It's tough. It's definitely tough. And it's certain guys transferring for a semester and then transferring back to the school. I mean, it definitely gets tough. But I tell you, like, what a lot of people don't understand about being in college sports, because they haven't been in college sports, is you never forget your first time going to campus, your first time being away. The nostalgic feelings of brotherhood when you first get there, for me, is something that can't be recreated.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get that from transferring to a school and then playing. So, like, every kid that has left Kentucky at any point, he has a soft spot in his heart for Kentucky as well.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Like all of them have soft spots in their heart for Kentucky, right? Whether they enjoyed their time here or they didn't enjoy their time, they always have a soft spot for it.
Yeah. And I just want to talk a little bit more about Champions Blue LLC. We brought that up a little bit earlier in the podcast, but what's your take on the move from a business and operations standpoint with, the new LLC for Kentucky?
I think it's cleaner, but at the same time, I feel like it had to happen.
Yeah.
And I think this is my take on a whole on it. It's a lot cleaner, but I think it definitely had to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, we can do a lot to boost it up and make sure that all of our sports are funded,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that we're not looked at a second of anything in the SEC
Mm-hmm.
or third of anything. Like, the power is literally in our hands. Like, all right, we need a guy that's great. All right, well, let's go get him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We
Mm-hmm.
need a guy that's great and has all the intangibles at the same time. Okay, let's go get him.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You're not wrong. And do you think this could be a model for other schools across the country?
Yeah, they're not the only school.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I think
they're not the only school.
Granted.
Yeah. So they're not the only school, and I've been talking to a couple other schools that are switching to that route.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of other schools that are switching to that route, and I think we're on the right track for sure. We're in the forefront
Mm-hmm.
of something rather than being on the backside. So
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and then also the latest, there was a discussion today. UK is also preparing $110 million in internal investments to facilities from Kroger Field to an entertainment district on campus. Do you think spending like this makes sense right now?
I do. I think spending like this does make sense. I feel like I've been at schools with mediocre football teams. I've been at schools with great football teams. And at the end of the day, it's fan experience.
Yeah.
That's what people come to games,
Yeah.
right? the fan experience. I've been to some teams with terrible fan experience that have been ranked, but still terrible fan experience, and they don't have the stadium packed,
Yeah,
right?
I hear you.
So I think it's something that we have to do, like to be on par. Like I remember when I first came to Kentucky, I think I just left. I think I did a Michigan tour. So I went to Michigan. No, I went to Michigan after Kentucky. I went to UNC
Hmm.
and then I went to NC State. And of course, they show you the facilities and everything. And I'm sitting there with Coach Turner. We're in his office, and he's like, "Oh, I forgot. I didn't show you the weight room." So we
Hmm.
go out, and he shows me the weight room in Nutter. And in my head, I'm like, "You didn't really need to show me this." Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I want to play in the SEC. I feel like this is like a brotherhood down here. I had a couple guys I played at military school with that are here right now.
Hmm.
I want to come to Kentucky, but like you could have left out the weight room. Like our weight room was pathetic,
At
right?
the time, yeah, until it got a new upgrade in like 2015, I think it was.
So, we had like a soft upgrade when Stoops came. So like they redid, got like new racks, new weights,
Hmm.
painted because it was like this gray blue two tone they had in there that was kind of like kind of dead.
Yeah.
So they redid a bunch of the stuff, got us all new equipment, got us a lot of recovery equipment too.
Hmm.
So that was when they did the soft one, but they were doing so much to help us out with football because we were so like behind. Like everywhere I went, I'm just naming schools that's not even the SEC,
Yeah.
right? That I went to their weight rooms, and their weight rooms are nice. Like you
Yeah.
can picture yourself working out there, like
Mhm.
you know.
I,
Um, but when we first came in, Stoops would not have been able to recruit if we had that weight room
yeah.
in 2014 until 2017. If we
Yeah.
had that weight room then, in that time frame, he wouldn't have been able to get the Len Bowdens. He wouldn't be able to get any of those guys, right?
Mhm.
It was like barely enough room for us to work out in there,
Yeah.
right?
You're not wrong. And I
Yeah.
hope they eventually upgrade Kentucky basketball. Their practice facility plus their dorms aren't the greatest. Like they probably would have been great, back in 2010. But I remember even before Mark Pope took over for John Calipari. John Calipari wanted a new practice facility plus a new dorm as well for the players.
I remember when they built the lodge
Hmm.
and they moved from that. There used to be a parking lot on the other side of Memorial, and it used to be way in the back there. And it was like this. It looked like an old house,
Hmm.
if I'm remembering it right. It looked like an old house. And then they built the one right next to the facility,
Hmm.
and that was probably 2013, 2012,
Hmm.
2012, 2013. So, I mean, you got to stay on top of it. If you want recruits, you have to stay on top of this stuff,
Yeah,
right?
you're not wrong.
No matter what it costs to get, like you're going to make it right back with the top recruits in your pocket, right? If we're talking about a business standpoint, you're going to make it right back.
You're not
So
wrong.
as long as we're holding checks and balances on getting these recruits in, we got our fan support, we have everything else. I mean, we're unstoppable at that
Yeah,
point. Like everybody across the country is wearing blue and white.
yeah.
So
You're not wrong. And granted, it is UK basketball, not to get off topic of football, but it is UK basketball. They're known as the Mecca and everything for basketball at least. So it's easier to recruit, plus, money as well. They're probably
and
paying the
Pope's
top.
doing a good job too. Pope's crushing it.
You're not wrong.
Pope is crushing it.
But we'll be right back with this podcast, so stay tuned. I'll have more questions, and Trayvon will continue to answer them for me. But we'll be right back with this podcast. All right, I am back with Travaughn Paschal again, and I know we were talking a little bit about Kentucky basketball before we ended this, but I want to talk more about Kentucky football. I know we were talking about the entertainment side for Kentucky basketball or for Kentucky football, and I immediately thought about, Knoxville with University of Tennessee, how they've got the football stadium, but now it's set up for like entertainment with concerts, and then I think they also have like a food venue or something as well in Knoxville.
Okay.
A little bit more about that.
I don't know. I don't know too much about Knoxville. I don't know
Yeah,
too much about it, but I definitely think it's something that we can entertain for Kentucky for
yeah,
sure.
you're not wrong. I mean, we just had
Yeah.
a concert recently in Lexington. I forgot who performed, but I believe it was a sold out crowd and everything. So, uh, I mean, if UK can get into the entertainment side, get more concerts, at Kroger Field or Rupp Arena, wherever it might be,
We're working on that with a couple of schools right now. I have a guy who runs actually I get married June 28th. I'll be in Lexington.
Oh, you'll be in Lexington?
Yeah, I get married at Castle and Key,
Oh,
right?
nice.
But I know it's a country event that weekend called Country Stampede. So my guys that run that, we've been working with them to do some things with schools to raise money for NIL. So what
Mhm.
they're doing is they're taking a portion of the proceeds and they're directly donating back to whether it's a collective or the LLC that the school's tied to.
Congratulations on
Yeah,
getting married, man.
yeah, appreciate it,
I
appreciate
hear.
it.
Yeah, hopefully that's like, a few years down the line with me with everything, if everything works out with my girlfriend Elizabeth, hopefully, in 4 or 5 years that'll happen at least, but
Yeah,
can't rush it, gotta live life.
can't rush it, can't rush it.
You're not wrong. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about NIO, and then we can talk about your company, and then we can call it wraps. But what do you think is the biggest challenge or opportunity ahead for schools and athletes under, the health settlement and NIO?
Um, I think you're going to see a lot of, I don't want to say mismanaged funds because they're really not mismanaged funds, but it kind of is.
Mhm.
But managing a salary cap, I think is going to be tough for a lot of schools, right? Because you need extra money. Like they're giving you a base. Like, all right, look, you can start out with this, but like, you're going to need more than 13 to 15 million if you want to build a good football program,
Yeah,
right? If you want to go after the top players, you're going to need more than that.
yeah.
Um, so I think that aspect of it is going to be kind of tough for some people to do. And I
Mhm.
think people who aren't qualified to do so are going to run into some hurdles with that because you got to think of the funds that were mismanaged through collectives,
Yeah.
right? Or funds that are just mismanaged at universities on a day-to-day basis.
Mhm.
That'll put you in a hole where you really got to lean on your boosters to get out of. And I feel like I've been talking to boosters around the country, and they feel like it's a revolving door, and
Mhm.
they can't see where their money goes. Like, yeah, it's a donation for them, but like at the same time, it's like they see a player that they paid for come in and they're talking about the player and whatever. So they see that, the transaction happens, however it happens. And the next thing you know, the player leaves. And then there's the next guy in it they're talking about.
Mhm.
But then and then most of these boosters are really old school guys, right?
Yeah.
Like they're used to seeing players come through and proud to play for the university. No money involved, right?
So
Proud
proud,
to
probably.
Yeah, a lot of these people, right? They go in and they see, players develop and leave, like come in so young and leave a man, but like now you're getting guys that just come in and out and it just seems to them like it's all about the money, right?
Yeah. That's how I
So
feel about certain players. I won't name any names, but that's how I felt this past year for the Kentucky football team. Like I said, I won't name any names, but a couple players I have on my mind where I thought, they were only here at UK to collect a paycheck.
yeah, but I think that it's really a double-edged sword, right? So it's certain things we don't like about it. NIL, we don't like that, guys can kind of give up at the end of the season if they feel like they're going into a portal. um, we don't like um, players that seems like they all they're doing is chasing the money.
Hmm.
Um, but we fail to realize so many guys that play this game don't get a chance to really make that type of money again,
Yeah,
right?
you're not wrong. 6 figures, you're thinking of or some, the top players millions.
Yeah. And you think about it, what's the highest paid job coming out of college? Professional sports.
You
You know
know,
what I mean? I don't
yeah,
care if you work for Facebook, Meta, Facebook, Google, Uber, whoever it is,
yeah,
like you're not making that much on your first job.
you're
I'm
not.
sorry. Right. And if you are, you better be the top of your class. And you
Yeah.
better have founded the company while you were in college, you know?
I hear you.
But it's just that's what it is. So now when you think about the decisions that they have to make, right? Okay, I can stay here, I can make 130, or this other school's offering me 320,
Yeah.
and I can go there to the other school and make 320. If you were in that position, would you stay making 120 at the other school?
No. Got
Right?
$200,000 more.
you got $200,000 more. But now it goes into, okay, can I get developed at the other school? Can I do this? Can I do that? And those are guys who know that they have a shot at the next level. Some guys don't even know if they have the shot or not.
Yeah, and
You know what I mean? Like, that's the most money they're going to have. That's their nest egg. So they're going to go in and they're going to figure out exactly what they want to do in life because they can't do it while they're figuring out football.
you're not wrong. And some players, it's more in college basketball, but some players are just going to be good or great, college basketball players and probably won't make it into the NBA because, you're an undersized guard or you can't shoot, because
But I think basketball is such a global sport. People are able to find homes in different countries playing basketball, right? Same with volleyball. People can find homes in other countries playing volleyball, and they can make really good money doing it. They can make six figures doing that,
yeah,
well into six figures doing that in some places. But like when you think about football, it's like, all right, are you gonna play in the UFL? Are you
yeah,
gonna play? Are you
exactly.
gonna play in Canada, or are you gonna waste your time and play arena ball,
Hmm.
right? And hope that somebody can scout and like a scout can pick you up and you go to the league from arena ball, which
Hmm.
is a slim shot, you
Yeah,
know.
you could get on the practice squad maybe.
Yeah, you can try to get in the practice squad, but that's
Mhm.
even tough, you
Yeah,
know.
you're not
That's even tough. So it's they want to take advantage, strike while the iron's hot, right?
wrong.
So iron's hot, you got to strike it, right? You got to
Yeah.
build something at that point. Like you can't wait. So I understand why these guys are leaving to get more money,
Hmm.
but it's like I said, it's also a thing with our fans, man. It's just like not just us, but like all across the country. If that's your team, that's your ride or die for your team. Go support your team,
Hmm.
right?
Go support the team, fund the NIL, whatever you can do.
That or just show up. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Show up,
Be
right?
loud.
Right? If you can't give $50 to the NIL fund or whatever, but give $50 and cheering at the game. At least be at the catwalk. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Show up to your boys' tailgate. Stay out there the whole time. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Like you just need the support. Like once you get that support, everybody's gonna rally around. You
Yeah.
know?
You're not wrong. And I think also a big thing that has happened at UK is they also, brought in alcohol sales. It used to not be like that until a couple of years ago. I think maybe 24, 23, or 24 was like the first year they introduced it and it was for baseball and, that was successful. And then they finally brought it into other sports like football. So I think that probably has helped out a lot too.
I think it does help out a lot. I think it definitely helps out a lot. I love Kroger Field. Like the dynamic of everything and like, they end up making the stadium like a tad bit smaller when they did the renovation.
Mhm.
And it hasn't lost a beat. You got more premium seating. People are a lot more comfortable. Like, I mean, I love it there. That's why I think it's no reason why we shouldn't pack that place out every time.
You're not
You
wrong.
know?
After going 4-8, it might be a little bit hard to do.
Yeah.
Hopefully, Mark Stoops can turn around this year and get us to 6, 7, 8 wins, but that's going to be hard because of how hard the schedule is.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard. But what's making it harder though? Having an empty stadium,
Yeah,
right?
not
And
wrong.
having an empty stadium, having no support makes that a lot harder,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, because
It's tough because when a coach is obviously going through adversity, right?
Mhm.
He like, and this is the thing I love about Coach Stoops. My biggest quote that I carry on in life now is actually in one of the bowl rings I have from coaching because he didn't win one when he played, but it said, "Don't flinch."
Don't.
That's one of his big quotes. You face adversity, you don't flinch, right? And that's what's being preached to our players. At the same time, like our fan base has to have the same thing. Don't flinch. Yeah, we got a tough schedule. Don't flinch. We're gonna do what we need to do on our side. Let's
Mhm.
make sure we got your support on the other side. Like, don't flinch. Like that's our mentality,
Mhm.
right? So I think we have a tough schedule. Do I think he can pull it off? Yes, I've seen him pull off things that. And it's funny because the thing about Vince, to go back to Vince, the thing about like him the most, I'll call him and I'll say, "Hey, coach, how you think we're gonna do this year?" And he will tell me what the record's going to be, and he did it 3 or 4 years straight,
Mhm.
and he told me exactly what the record was going to be for the team. Oh yeah, we're gonna win. We're probably gonna win 7 games. Like we're probably gonna win.
Mhm.
And then what did we win? How many games did we win in 2021?
2021 was 10-3, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
just
he called it. He called it.
That year
He
was,
called it.
yeah.
And, it's been, you can tell the work that he's put into, like the entire coaching staff has put in. And then the GM Chase, the current GM that we have now, Chase, that guy was in the equipment room when I was first started out of Kentucky. Now he's the GM. But it
Dang.
just shows you like how resilient all of these guys are, like, and what they do. Like they really put up a fight, you
Mhm.
know. They really put up a fight. And when Coach Stoops was just getting going, he's missing, big games by like a small margin
Yeah.
every time.
Like
You
Georgia
think about
last year.
Georgia. Look, Georgia this past year. It's like Georgia almost every year. It's
Yeah.
like a field goal or like a touchdown or
Other
like,
than 23, yeah.
yeah,
That game was bad. Oof.
yeah.
Yeah.
Other than that one,
Talk about that, but you're not wrong. Usually they play Georgia very close, but hopefully they can win some big games this year because if they want to do great this upcoming year, they have to win the tough opponents, Georgia, Vandy, Tennessee, Ole Miss, South Carolina, just to name a few.
yeah. And you got, I mean, also too, like when we're looking at these other teams and we're hoping to compete with them. Like I feel like we should be tired of just hoping to compete with teams like that and thinking it's good on good, right? Like they have players that they've paid for,
Yeah.
right? And it's not like we're rolling around with a bunch of guys at Kentucky who are just lawless in Lexington. Like these guys are they all got DUIs, they're speeding all over the place and they're rude to everybody. Like we have good guys in Kentucky. Like let's make sure that we can continue to recruit those good guys and put them in that Lexington ecosystem,
Hmm.
where guys want to come back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're not wrong. Gotta make sure, have it has to start at top, with the coaching staff and making sure you have a great room there and then trickle down to the players to make sure the players are motivated and they're doing great.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
And
I
speaking
agree.
of Mark Stoops sayings, I know you brought that up, don't flinch, but what about, when he says true or not true, or what about this one? Boys do what they want and men do what they have to.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you're not.
Exactly. I'm telling you, it just playing for Coach Stoops is just like so many. Like I think Dope Flinch is the one that resonated with me the most because like things will go wrong, especially being away from family, things that happen in your personal life, or things might be not be going away it's supposed to on a field. Like you might mess up a play, you might get yelled at. Like it's just so many different things that can happen to you mentally.
Hmm.
But like to know it's like, all right, don't flinch. Like
Hmm. Don't.
it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like don't let that linger. Like on
Hmm.
to the next. And then Joe Scola, he used to have a saying on his board in his room. I used to go meet with him when he was I don't know, I want to say 20. I don't know. It was a while ago. We were in the old Nutter, and he had a quote on his board. His board said, "Yesterday ended last night." Those are probably like the two quotes that stuck with me.
Hmm.
You know,
That's a good quote.
yeah. Because like I mean, you can ask any of my guys. Like I got a bunch of Kentucky football players in my groomsmen party. You ask any of them, like I was at a point where like if one little thing went wrong and it was something that I felt like I could control, it would just linger in my head.
I hear
So
you.
that's why those quotes resonated with me the most.
That's how I feel working in news. Like I'm a producer. Just to get a little background is I'm a producer. So basically if, something goes wrong in the show and it's my fault, I feel bad. And one of the things that always sticks with me is you're only good as your last newscast.
Yeah. Yep.
But we're going to talk about a little bit about your sports and agency. So how do agencies like yours, help players navigate this new world currently? I know you said you have like almost, 30 college athletes, possibly.
Yeah. Yeah. I do. I'm just the thing is I just can't take like so one I had to learn very early. You can't just take anybody,
Hmm.
right? You got to be selective in your process. Like it is no matter what, you have to possess the intangibles, which means like you have to do the stuff that is not related to football in order to be a great football player, right?
Yes.
And in order to get to the next level, in order to get to the league, you have to do those small things, right? So no one should be asking you if you should go to class, right? Nobody should be checking your class and finding out that you're not in there, right? And like now teams are finding people for that, right?
Yeah.
But like no one should have to worry about you in things that you're supposed to do. Those
Mhm.
things should just come naturally, right?
Mhm.
Um, And if it doesn't come naturally, you need to work until it comes to you naturally. So I've took some gambles in the past, and I've learned that, I just have to keep guys that are going to work, and you don't have to ask them if they're going to work out today. You already know. Hey, and call you. Oh, you're going to work out. I'm going to call you back later.
Yeah.
Like those are the guys that make it, right? Guys that don't get discouraged, right? Guys that understand, that this is a business, from whether they figure that out day one, stepping on campus, or when they graduate, at some point they need to know it's a business. But yeah, so the way I help them navigate is, one, having them understand that it is a business. When they sign contracts, making it a big deal that they're signing a contract, because most likely this is the first contract they've signed, unless they check the box on terms and conditions with, an app they're downloading. Like, this is the first real contract that they're signing. So I help them really realize what that means, and what a contract is, and kind of what the concept of a contract is. Like, somebody wants something out of you, and you want to get things done. So what are you getting out of it, and what are they getting out of it, and is it equal, right? So that's typically what, how I help them navigate. Also, finding out what they're into, right? So I have some guys who just want to be low key, right? They're just like, hey, I don't really care about social media. I don't want to be on social media. Some guys are like, oh, I want to make a bunch of money off the field. Like, I want to be on social media. I want to eventually get into broadcasting. I want to do this. So, like, we kind of help them mold and based off of their values, whatever their values are.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's probably one bad thing about football. Most of the time the players are, wearing a helmet, so you can't really see the players, so it's a little bit harder to market for them.
Yes, I agree. So we're doing some stuff now with some players who have big social media followings, and there's going to be more to come on that. You guys will see a lot coming from PFC Sports Group on that one. And then we also kind of keep a close ear to the athletic directors that we have ties with, just to hear what's going on in the space, right? Because they meet on all of the changes before they happen, right? So they have to have cohesiveness and understanding the landscape in order to do their job all across the country, right? Collectively. So just kind of hearing what might change, what's up for change, what they're making decisions on, and getting ideas that way to help the player be more valuable in a sense, right?
And how do you market players, who, let's say on both ends, that, want to market on social media, like they want to be an influencer, compared to, players who don't want to use social media or aren't involved on it?
So there's so many different avenues you can take. It's nothing that's like cut and dry. You just got to figure out like what is available to your athlete, and his values. Because the last thing you want to do is be like, hey, this is work. I want you to do work. You know what I mean? But if like you're like, all right, well, this is natural. I want you to fit this day to day in everything that you do. So whether, we have some guys that were just going to college, right? And they're like, oh, I want to do social media. Well, okay, well, you need to post here, here, and here. And this is how frequent you should be posting. Try to get in cool with the guy that's doing video and everything at the school, all in the media at the school. So you have something to choose from. So you're not searching for posts. And let's go ahead and make it automatic, right? Let's make it automatic so it posts at this time. And then you got teams with like weirder rules, like Clemson. Clemson has like weird rules on when you can post and when you can't post, like, but I feel like eventually that's going to change down there. But so we put them on a posting schedule. And then I don't know if you know K1 Ross.
I know K1 Ross. Yes, I've heard his name before.
So K1 actually lives out here in Arizona, and we've been talking too. So we're going to put together some videos for guys young athletes, to show them, hey, this is how you post. This is where you can fit it in your free time, right? This is how you are more productive and you're not procrastinating. So just a line of videos like that, just so people can have them, these young athletes can have them and be able to build their brand while they're in school, but not have it affected by anything that's happening off the field, right? Because if you're out there shooting TikTok videos at the facility, the moment you make a bad play, they're going back to you shooting
Yeah.
TikTok videos and not being prepared, right?
Yeah.
So just kind of how to balance both of those.
Yeah, and I think I've seen on his Instagram that he's trying to make a NFL comeback, maybe. I'm not for sure, but I'm pretty
If
sure I've seen his.
if anybody can do it, it's him. That's all I would say about that. If anybody can do it, it's him
Yeah,
for sure.
I'm pretty sure I've seen recently on his Instagram, just like, shall I make an NFL comeback?
Yeah, I just saw him probably like 2 weeks ago because
Hmm.
I went on a few trips, but I saw him like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he looks like an NFL receiver, like a big NFL receiver.
Hmm. You're not
So,
wrong.
and that's one thing you can't teach is size. That's one thing you can't teach.
Yeah,
These scouts, these GMs, they love size.
you're not wrong. And just talking a little bit more about your sports agency, what inspired you to start PFC Sports Group? Like, was it Vince Marrow saying you could be a sports agent eventually one day?
So that was stuck in the back of my head for sure when he told me that, and he told me that as I was leaving, and stuck in the back of my head. But I started off in a finance route, and I realized like my agent wasn't the best coming out, um, and the other guy that he signed. So what happened with me? Now I'll get into the story of what happened with me. So I went to Kentucky, but I came from Fork Union Military Academy,
Hmm.
right? So it's a very structured school out in Virginia, Central Virginia. And I think the nearest McDonald's was like 21 miles away. Like it was just like absolute hell.
Hmm.
But I loved it and I loved the structure that it gave me. So I went there post grad, got picked up back in Kentucky. That's a short story of it. Got picked up back in Kentucky. Um, I was committed to Pitt before that.
Hmm.
Pitt found out that I had to fight the NCAA for another year and they wanted me to play right away. So they were like, look, we're gonna have to pass on you because of this situation you have in the NCAA. So Kentucky picks me up. NCAA, well, we fight with compliance and them, they're having a fight about it.
At that time.
And yeah, and basically we end up appealing it my senior year because I only played 3 years. I had to sit and burn my first year.
Hmm.
Meaning like no matter how many times I won accolades in practice or whatever, I couldn't be on the sideline for games. I had to be in the stands with the fans for every single game.
Yeah.
So we we fought back and forth my senior year, and by that time I had a little bit more ammo on my case, and we ended up losing again. And pro day was the next week, so I do pro day, and I still don't have an agent because if I'm fighting the NCAA and I sign an agent, the NCAA could just be like, you know what, you sign an agent, bye bye. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I sign an article comes out about me because I do something with the Ravens. So the article comes out about me. Then two agents hit me up. The one guy was like, I don't know, kind of like a douchebag, like complete douchebag. But I'm like, you could be a douchebag for me, but don't be a douchebag to me and think you can get my business, right?
Hmm.
Then the next guy, he was out of Texas, and we knew some of the same people because his nephew grew up kind of like adjacent to my circle.
Hmm.
So me and his nephew go up to the Bills, right? We get released from the Bills. And long story short, he becomes an agent while I'm coaching,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So we started talking and he's telling me like, about what he's doing and all of this stuff. And he's working with a big agency too.
Hmm.
So I've started thinking about what I'm doing currently. And he calls me. And this is when I think I'm in Tucson, and he calls me.
It's on him.
And he's like, yeah, like, I'm still with CAA, but like, do you have, this is one of the guy's numbers from the DC area,
Hmm.
um, that was like way younger, but I knew his family. He's like, do you have his number? I'm like, oh yeah, I can hook you up with him, but like, what's going on? He was like, he knows so-and-so, but I gotta like get his number somehow, whatever. But long story short, I started thinking about his uncle that was our agent.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh, he was terrible. Like now that everything, like it just came full circle. Now that like I've been a part of getting endorsement deals done and everything else,
Hmm.
I'm like, I had never seen him in person. Right.
Hmm.
And I was like, I wonder how many guys, and I start calling guys. He's like, yeah, my agent was terrible. And I was like, you know what? I'm being an agent. Like, it's no way that, like, I'm going through everything
Hmm.
and I'm hearing that guys had the same experience,
Hmm.
right? Like, I didn't like him. I didn't like him. Like, he didn't do this. He didn't talk to me. He didn't follow up. Like, and it was so many like weird things that happened too. Like the Browns had reached out and they wanted me to go there, but then the Bills wanted me to go. But his friend was on the Bills, but
Hmm.
Joker was on the Browns. So it's like I would have chose the Browns before I chose the Bills. But that was
Yeah.
like Rex Ryan days. But yeah, so I mean that's kind of what got me into it is like knowing that like somebody dropped the ball with me and I wanted to make sure that I'm in a position to do right by these guys, right?
Mhm.
And then sometimes it might like I do a little bit too right sometimes, but it's fun, and I always vowed that like it's gonna be a guy
Mhm.
that doesn't have a chance once a year, and I'm gonna take him.
Mhm.
Right? Like he's looking for an agent. Somebody calls me,
Mhm.
and case by case basis, I look at it, and I'm always gonna take a chance on one guy
Mhm.
every year. But as far as the draft pick, that's when it's gonna be like a little bit more decision making. Like I'm only taking a shot at one. Like the
Yeah.
other ones, they gotta be guaranteed. I know you have everything in place. Like not that you didn't have a shot. I want you to have everything in place.
And then,
So
of course, the last NFL draft pick is always called Mr. Irrelevant, sadly.
yep, exactly, exactly. So yeah, that's kind of like a long winded story, but that's like kind of how I got started.
Yeah.
That's the mindset that I had.
Mhm.
So
Do you think you would have had a better shot at the NFL if you had a better agent? And of course, if at the, back of your head, you thought maybe you could stay another year at UK if you got another year of eligibility as
I
well.
could have stayed. Yeah, I could have stayed another year, and that's the thing. Coach Stoops and Coach Marrow were really advocating for the compliance department to push for me to get that extra year.
Hmm. You're not wrong.
So, yep, yep.
And then a couple more questions I have for you because, I don't want to keep you all nine and everything. But how does your experience as a former college player and coach help you better serve athletes now?
I understand, right? So we're talking about scheme, we're talking about roles that's being played. I've been in your shoes, and I know, you
Mhm.
know. I've played one, two, three, four. I played six positions in college, you
Hey,
know.
that's a lot. I didn't even know that.
So yeah, so I know for sure. I played field in. Um, I played weak side in. I've played outside linebacker on both sides. The same in the wheel. I've played middle and I've played wheel linebacker. So
Hmm. I hear
so I mean I played everywhere. Like Coach Elliott used to call me Slash because like
you.
I could be in a different meeting room each week. So I've played, I've coached, and obviously I have connections, and that's like one of the biggest things to be an agent is to have those connections. Like somebody comes in the building when I was coaching, I made sure I talked to them,
Hmm.
you know? And it's funny because Coach Marrow was our NFL liaison. And a lot of people forget that too. So
Hmm.
when all the scouts come in, they're meeting with him. When they're
Yeah.
looking at film, they're in a tight end room looking at film.
Hmm.
So, I was able to harbor a lot of relationships just being there and, recognizing those guys and catching up with them and you
Hmm.
know. And then now these are the guys I see when I'm at the NFL Combine.
Hmm.
So
Um,
yeah.
yeah, and then real quick, so of course your younger brother played at UK. Did you help at all recruiting him to UK?
So this story is kind of crazy, but I helped recruit my brother, but it wasn't from a sense of like you have to come to Kentucky because I'm here. I kind of talked to him about it,
Mhm.
and I wanted to see where his head was. And he had came down and he'd just done camps at Kentucky when I was still playing,
Mhm.
right? And the coaches loved him from day one. But we got to talking, and it was going to be between Ohio State, Penn State, and Kentucky.
Mhm.
And I don't like Penn State at all.
You don't like Penn State.
So
Yeah.
when I was getting recruited, right, I was getting recruited. It was Don Brown and Coach Franklin from Maryland,
Mhm.
University of Maryland. So they told me they were going to have an offer for me in a week. They just saw me at Fort Union, and I get home and this is my free time. So I'm home on leave, and my dad's like, you need to call the coach from Maryland every day until he picks up. And it's brutal, but my dad wanted me to do it. So I'm sitting there, I'm calling him, 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 and no answer. And then finally, like, somebody picks up now, oh yeah, we just decided to pass. Like, you know, we got somebody else in mind, like whatever. I'm like, all right, cool. So at some point though, it was like 3 weeks. At some point, you could have just told me, like,
Yeah.
hey, we're going in a different direction, you know? So that's why I didn't like Franklin when he was at Vanderbilt. I didn't like him when he was at Penn State. But I'm over it now.
Yeah.
I'm over it now. But that was, you know, kind of his options. We started talking, and I just like, I wanted somebody, like a place for him to go that was going to take care of him. And I was like, hey, like, you know, if you choose to go to Kentucky, they're going to take care of you like family. You're just not another recruit there. You know, like, they've really looked out for me since I got done playing. Like, before you were even a recruit, they were looking out for me. So it's up to you and where you want to go. Like, just take a visit. He took a visit. He loved it. And the funny thing is, when I talk about fans again, he was at the games when Joker was there.
Yeah.
Right. And it wasn't like my parents didn't really get to go to a lot because I think he was playing Little League at the time. And then I had a sister back home too. So they only came out to like 1 or 2 games per year. Right. Every year was like 1 or 2 games. So he comes out to a game, and he's with one of his friends. We were recruiting him too. So they come out, and they start to see the landscape of everything and how everything's changed with the new facilities and, you know, just the energy at the games at that point now too. And that's really why he came into the school, because he saw the change that happened and he knew it was something great. Now, when we really look back at everything, right, we had Gabe. Gabe is with the Steelers right now, athletic trainer. We got really close. I had a few injuries in college, so we got really close. Me and him, and me and Jim Madalino and Gabe got really close. So I told Gabe before I left, I'm like, look, hey, can you just take care of my brother? Like, he don't complain about a lot. Like, he does not complain about a lot. Just take care of him. And then, of course, that's when we get the news that Josh had cancer.
Yeah, that's
right. But he complained about something that looked like a little blister on the bottom of his foot.
Yeah.
And he went in there. Gabe took it serious, and he didn't have to take it serious. It could have waited and waited and waited, and then we end up catching it, you know, early enough so that, you know, he does a few like evasive surgeries, and then, you know, it's done. Looking back now, I think we all agreed that, like, coming to Kentucky probably saved his life. You know, if he went to Ohio State, it's nothing saying that, like, no knock on them or anything that they do, but it's not saying that they would have took the same level of care in that aspect. You know what I mean?
That's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
So basically, the short story from that is, you know, Josh committed to Kentucky because of the family. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. Right. And I know whenever he got cleared, it was a great moment. And I remember Vince Marrow talking on KSR, talking about the moment and everything. And, you know, that was very emotional, but I'm glad he's doing great now. And of course, you know, it's in the NFL. I think, didn't he also have something up with his shoulder recently as well? Real quick.
Yeah. So with cancer, you have to get a PET scan.
Yeah.
And he has to get his PET scans for, like, you know, a certain amount of years. So he got one, and that area lit up, and they found a lump in his chest.
Yeah.
So they tried to biopsy it, but it was in a weird place, and it kept coming back inconclusive. So they had to go back in and they had to dig it out. And they dug it out, and it wasn't cancer or anything like that. So that was good.
Yeah, I remember that happened recently. Well, I'm going to end this podcast, but do you have anything else you would like to add?
I think I'm good. I don't really have anything to add, but I would definitely say to the UK fans, like, support your team, you know, support your coaches, right? At the end of the day, like, you know, everybody wants some type of support, you know? Like, imagine if your wife came into the house and told you everything you did wrong, you know?
Yeah, I hear you.
Right?
Well, I would love to get you onto, more episodes in the future, specifically to talk about, your UK recruitment, your time at UK. But I just wanted to talk to you mainly about Vince Marrow, NIL, and, your sports agency.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good.
Well, that's a wrap on today's episode of Conversations with Chris and Cameron. Big thanks to Travaughn Paschal for joining us and sharing his insight from his days at Kentucky to his work now shaping the future of athlete representation through PFC Sports Group. We covered a lot. Vince Merrill's move, the shifting college and sports landscape, NIL, and what it all means moving forward. Thank you all for watching and listening. I appreciate if y'all would subscribe or, listen to it on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. But thank you all.
Subscribe,
Yes.
everybody.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Have a great rest of your evening and night, Travaughn.
All right, you have a good one.